Everyone?
Good evening.
Okay, now this time it's for the audience. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, see, we're getting back together. We got to get used to that. We'll call the meeting to order. Closed session report, Mr. Attorney?
I have nothing to report out of closed session.
Okay. I saw Fred Thomas here. Would you lead us in the pledge? And I wasn't being mean because you have a new knee. I just thought maybe it needed a little exercise. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Luevanos? Here. Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Here.
Councilmember Judge?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Litster?
Here.
Mayor Mashburn?
Here. Agenda review. Any items anybody needs to discuss? Okay, we'll discuss them during the meeting.
I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Luevanos? Your vote. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Declaration of conflict. If any member of the city council may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should so declare at this time. Anybody? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the first item on the agenda is item 1D1, Certificates of Appreciation to outgoing members of the Simi Valley Council on Aging Executive Board. And Angel Sierra is here for this presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. This evening, the City Council is recognizing 5 outgoing Council on Aging Executive Board members. Janet Plant was elected to the COA Executive Board in 2018, eager to serve her community of over 20 years. She immediately began making an impact by becoming a COA chair in 2019. As chair, she always listened to the Executive Board and the community at large and recommended decisions that had the greatest positive impact to the greatest number of seniors. She served as the COA dance chair in the absence of a volunteer to ensure dance is continued, and as the Wellness Expo chair. Throughout her career in the healthcare and senior living industry, she learned to understand the need for advocacy and to support programs targeted to the special needs of seniors. She worked diligently with the Council on Aging Board so that it remained united when carrying out the COA mission amongst a diverse community in order to best meet the needs of seniors. In addition to her service on the COA Executive Board, Janet also served as a volunteer ombudsman in Ventura County, advocating for those living in long-term care facilities. Peter Stong. Pete began as a volunteer in 2017 and quickly got involved by becoming a COA Executive Board member so he could put his work experience of 41 years in the long-term care industry to use. He dedicated his tenure on the Executive Board to serving in various capacities, including being a chair and co-chair of the Wellness Expo 3 times, helping with the Bingo Bonanza event, and helping greet patrons at the Thanksgiving Eve dinner. During his time on the board, Pete also served as corresponding secretary, vice chair, nominating committee co-chair, and participated actively on a number of other committees, including the Budget Committee, Furniture Purchase Committee, and Community Outreach Committee. Pete always demonstrated a positive attitude and did everything he could to help the COA fulfill its mission. Suzanne Robertson, who is with us today. Susan, if you'd like to come up. Susan has been volunteering at the Senior Center since October 2018 as a Meals on Wheels driver and quickly got more involved in various Senior Center events. In January of 2020, Suzanne was appointed to serve on the COA Executive Board, where she served as a corresponding secretary for 1 year. During her term as a board member, Suzanne assisted with the July 4th celebration, Bingo Bonanza, Arts and Crafts Fair, Wellness Expo, and Street Fair. She served as an advocate for seniors and helped support the goals and mission of the Simi Valley Council on Aging. Thank you, Suzanne. Linda Allen. Linda began volunteering at the Senior Center a few years before being appointed to the COA Executive Board in January of 2020. She began by assisting the Council on Aging dances and became the dance chair shortly after being appointed to the COA Executive Board. Linda demonstrated tremendous passion while overseeing the COA dances, always working to improve the events and making them more enjoyable for participants. Despite her short tenure on the Executive Board, Linda has made a tremendous impact in the areas in which she was involved. Jerry St. Germain. Jerry was a dedicated volunteer who would have completed his second term on the Executive Board if not for his unexpected death in July of 2021. During his tenure on the board, he served on various committees and events, including the Bingo Bonanza event, Wellness and Information Expo, Budget Committee, Arts and Crafts Fair, Street Fair, Thanksgiving Eve dinner, and so much more. He consistently demonstrated a willingness to help in any capacity that he could and left a lasting impression on everyone that he met and interacted with. Thank you, Janet, Peter, Suzanne, Linda, and Jerry for your dedication. We deeply appreciate the exceptional service you have provided as COA Executive Board members and the seniors in our community.
Well, needless to say, the Senior Center is one of our star attractions to this city, to the residents of the city. And every time I go there, it's a pleasure to see everybody. And it's a little scary to see so many people that are so active and to think that, yeah, I could be a member here. And I have to keep up with these people. But the programs the chair, COA, puts together and supports is phenomenal. I can't say enough. Wherever I go, I hear about how great our senior center is. And I just kind of think of it at a time. I don't say anything back necessarily because I go, I know it. It is great. And so many people appreciate it. So thank you to the volunteers. Anybody else? Okay. Next item.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 1D2, an honorary resolution to Tom Poiser for the Wayne Templeton Volunteer of the Year Award, and Angel Sierra is presenting this item as well.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council once again. Tonight, the City Council is honoring the recipient of the 2021 Wayne Templeton Volunteer of the Year Award. Wayne Templeton Volunteer of the Year Award is an honor given to a senior whose selfless volunteerism helps improve the lives of seniors in our community. This year, I am happy to announce that Tom Poiser was nominated and selected by his peers to receive this honor. Mr. Poiser, it brings me great pleasure to invite you to come forward as I read this resolution. You're already there. Whereas Tom Poiser has been selected by the Simi Valley Council on Aging as the recipient of the 2021 Wayne Templeton Volunteer of the Year Award, following in the tradition of selfless devotion to senior issues and outstanding service to the senior citizens in our community. And whereas Tom Poiser has served Simi Valley seniors in numerous capacities, ensuring that the growing needs of some of the most vulnerable seniors in our community are served. And whereas Tom Poiser has served as a volunteer for the Senior Share Program for approximately 6 years, helping procure and distribute food on a weekly basis for those struggling with food insecurity. And whereas Tom Poiser has dedicated the last 2 years to fulfilling the increased need for food resources in the community caused by the pandemic by reaching out to local organizations and garnering support for the program, which has allowed it to grow substantially. And whereas Tom has led 23 dedicated volunteers with compassion and kindness, a team which has distributed over 10,000 bags of food over the last 2 years. And whereas Tom Poiser has demonstrated exemplary dedication to helping feed seniors in need, and as a dedicated humanitarian, continually demonstrating kindness, attentiveness, and empathy. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Simi Valley that it commends Tom Poiser as the recipient of the 2021 Wayne Templeton Volunteer of the Year Award and expresses its recognition and gratitude for all that he has done and continues to do in our community, presented this 24th day of January 2022.
Okay, Tom, if you'd wait there, there's a little bit more, and I'd like to ask the entire council to come down, and we'll give him a special thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, as you're making your way down, I can add that in addition to the work that Tom did at the Senior Center, Tom was also a volunteer at City Hall, and you oftentimes, if you called City Hall, you would get him answering the phone and did a lot of work for our Human Resources Division and other areas. And Tom was always good for a joke. He would, before he left for the day, he would pass through our office and share one of his classic jokes with us. So we certainly enjoyed having Tom around.
If I may, thank you, Mayor Mashburn, members of the City Council, city managers, and others that I became familiar with as I was volunteering here. But I thought, as I was coming over, I do want to give tribute to an individual who mentored me for this position, and his name is Joe Butts, of which the Senior Center Food Pantry is now forever named after. Unfortunately, Joe's now 84, and age has taken its toll, so he no longer can participate, but I know if he could, he would, and I want to thank him personally. But in addition to this, I do really humbly accept this recognition, but it is also a recognition of tremendous support from individuals, volunteer organizations like the Rotarians, the Kiwanis, and especially businesses like Vons and the grocery outlet stores in Simi Valley. But I also wanted to bring up a few names that I did not list here, because so many people have helped this program to grow. One is Martha Coyne, organizing baked goods sales and chili cook-offs here at the city, and the proceeds went to the Senior Center for this program. A lady named Cindy Slack, I'm not trying to do advertising, but she organized tremendous food drives from the Keller Williams staff for this whole city. Vons this last year collected change from its customers for a period of about 2 or 3 months. And instead of giving us 100 turkeys and associated items that would fulfill the turkey dinner for all the years, due to food shortages, freight issues, they decided to give the senior center for this program gift cards. They gave $8,350 of $50 gift cards for this program. And when we gave them to our seniors, they literally had thanks with tears in their eyes. And some said, now I can even purchase my medicine for this week. That's how important everybody's efforts are in this program. Also want to mention Sue Clapper and Karen Smith in the city manager's office who organized canned good drives. And Janet Platt of the COA, tremendous support for this program. So the point is, without each, this program could not serve the seniors in our city who have these food insecurities. And a special thanks also needs to be given to the community service manager, Angel Sierra, and his assistant, Robert Martin, and their staff, and to the Council on Aging, which has supported me in this program with managing the resources to adjust the doubling of this program because of the increased needs during the last 2 years. I would come up with some crazy ideas, and we bounce them off the wall, and we usually came to a very amiable agreement. So without Angel's and Robert's support, I don't think also this program could have grown. Of course, the biggest thank you needs to go to over 20 volunteers who have given thousands of hours of their personal time to pick up, organize, and distribute over 130,000 pounds of food this last year. They have made this program a success. So to everyone, I give you a heartfelt thank you.
Lucy.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would, it is 6:47 on the clock we have in front of us here. We have a time-certain public hearing at 6:50 for the redistricting for the city. I would recommend we take probably a 2.5-minute break at this point in time and start that public hearing at 6:50. And then we can resume at the end of that public hearing where we left off.
Do you see what a generous city manager we have? We have 2.5-minute break.
Well, you got 2 minutes now.
That's because you talked too long.
Do you need a motion, Mayor? No?
I think we could probably just
Yeah,
don't violate the Brown Act and talk amongst yourselves.
Just a +2.
we're at 6:48 on my clock. Okay. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order and thank the city manager for that wonderful break.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Next on the agenda is public hearings. This is the time for testimony on public hearings on the consideration of matters as presented on this agenda. Let the record show that due notice was given as required by law, and an affidavit to this effect is on file in the city clerk's office. All comments submitted by email have been provided to the city council and will be made part of the record. However, they will not be read by the city clerk this evening. Speakers will be called on in the order which their card was submitted, followed by speakers who are signed on to Zoom to speak for this public testimony item for a period of no more than 5 minutes each. Persons addressing the city council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Comments shall be limited to the matters relevant to the item on the agenda and may be ruled out of order if comments are unrelated to the item. The reports of the city staff relating to these matters shall be made part of the record of this meeting. If you challenge in court any of the city council decisions made here tonight, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at this public hearing. The time within which judicial review must be sought is governed by California Code of Civil Procedure, Section 1094.6. Agenda item 4A. A public hearing before the City Council on the redistricting process to consider adoption of a voting district map and introduction of an ordinance number 1334. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley adopting a map describing a voting district boundaries and amending Title II of Chapter 4 of the Simi Valley Municipal Code. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, the City Council met on December 20, 2021 to hold its second public hearing, at which time the city's demographer, NDC, presented the city's current district map and the only publicly submitted map for review. At this public hearing, a concern was raised that the online mapping tools may not have been made available for the public to understand and use prior to the map submittal deadline of December 6, 2021. At the request of the City Council, a second community redistricting workshop was conducted via Zoom on Saturday, January 8, 2022 at 10 a.m., for which Spanish interpreters were again made available. We had 7 participants from the public in attendance. At the workshop, NDC provided instruction and demonstrated how to navigate through the online mapping tools. The date for the public hearing to submit map for City Council's consideration was extended to January 18th, 2022. 2 maps were timely submitted for review, Public Maps 202 and Map 203, which are attachments C and D to the staff report. These maps will be presented to you by the consultant along with our current map and the previously submitted Map 201. Kristen Parks from NDC is here via Zoom to provide you with a more detailed presentation and will be available to answer any questions.
Okay, we're ready for her.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I will share my screen. All right. So we have been working on redistricting here in Simi Valley all the way since September, when the first public hearing was held on September 27th. We are nearing the finish line, and I just want to take a moment to recognize all of the outreach and hard work that the city staff has put into the holding of all of these public hearings, as well as 2 public workshops for the public. And of course, here we are this evening reviewing all of the draft maps and potentially moving forward with an ordinance accepting a final map. This puts the city of Simi Valley well ahead of the legal deadline to adopt a new map, which is February 17th, 2022. I do quickly want to review the legal criteria. I know that you have all...
Sorry to interrupt, that was actually April 17th, 2022, as far as the legal deadline.
Yes. Of course, which is a Sunday, I believe. So, April 15th is the Friday. All right. So quickly reviewing the legal criteria, because as we look at these draft maps, we will be referring back to state and federal law Federal law, of course, first and foremost, gives us an equal population requirement, and courts have permitted the total population deviation, which is the difference between the largest district and the smallest districts, to be up to 10%. We also need to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, avoid racial gerrymandering, so not drawing any districts predominantly based on race, but incorporating other factors and features into the districts. And we need to follow California state law. This is a new law that was passed since the city transitioned to districts. It is called the Fair Maps Act, and it gives us a list of rank-ordered criteria to be considered. First is geographic contiguity, making sure that each district is a whole piece with no disconnected parts. Second, minimizing the divisions of neighborhoods and communities of interest in the city. Third, ensuring that the boundary lines for districts are easily identifiable by residents. And fourth, and finally, maintaining compactness. You can often tell whether or not a district is compact by looking at its shape. A compact district is not going to look as though it's avoiding a nearby area and stretching farther away to take in a more distant area. So these are the legal criteria we will be discussing. And as the city clerk mentioned, the current districts are population balanced. What that means is that they meet that first equal population requirement of federal law. So you see here highlighted on the slide, the total population deviation for the current districts that were recently adopted. And that number is 3.76%, which is really quite low in the grand scheme of things. NDC has been recommending to our clients not to go above 9%. Of course, the legal maximum is 10%. You see that also in the city of Simi Valley, of citizens of voting age, 20% identify as Latino, and of the current districts, the one with the largest percentage of Latino eligible voters is District 3 with 31%. So this is the current district map in a little bit more detail. You may not be able to see this on the screen, but it is available on the website. It can be zoomed in and out, and it's also on an interactive review map. Although census geography has changed from the 2010 geography that was used to adopt this current map to the 2020 geography, no changes actually need to be made to those boundary lines if the council does readopt the current map, because the county registrar of voters already has all of the geography for this map. So we don't actually have to make any changes just based on census geography. I want to point that out because I know previously I had shown you one block between districts 1 and 3 that changed with census geography, but it is not required to be changed if the council moves forward with this map. So quickly, I want to review the public map that you've already seen. That is public map 201. And you can see that what this map proposes is really a shifting of districts to be oriented more in a north-south manner. Districts 2, 3, and 4 become more north-south oriented. This map does not meet that federal requirement for equal population. It has a total deviation of 14.74%. And remember that the permissible maximum is 10%. So NDC does not recommend to our clients that they consider maps that have more than that 10% total deviation. So here is public map 202. This is the map that was recently submitted. And this map, while it is population balanced, it does propose 5 districts, which is one more than the current number of districts. So I just circled 5 there just to highlight for anyone. If they're not looking very closely, this is a 5-district map. And while I know that the city has not indicated that they will be considering changing the number of districts at this time, one of the interesting parts of the Fair Maps Act is that all of the publicly submitted maps are required to be published online for the next 10 years. So if at any point in the future, the city does want to consider changing the number of districts, then this map will be there to be part of that conversation. But of course, at this time, 4 districts is what is being considered. So Public Map 203 does draw 4 districts, and this map does not meet the federal population balance requirement either. Its total population deviation is 11.82%. And if you look at this map to get a sense of what it's trying to do, there aren't significant changes that look, at first glance, but then when you look closer at District 1, you'll see District 1 is actually being stretched all the way to the east and all the way to the west of the city. It's almost like a hat on the city there. So that's one of the significant changes proposed in this map. So with that, I will return to the current map. Here are, again, the statistics you've already seen from it. And I'm happy to take any questions if the council has them regarding the maps or the process. And just a reminder to those who are following along with us that all of these maps have been posted on redistrictsimivalley.org. And I want to show very quickly that if you do go to the website and you go to the draft maps page, you can access the PDFs showing the information in my PowerPoint, and you can click on the interactive review map that takes you to this page here where you can compare the current districts to the proposed maps or zoom in and out closer to evaluate the current districts. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and thank you so much for your attention this evening.
Okay, this time we'll take questions from the council to the staff or Christine for response. I don't see anybody in queue. Okay, then we'll move on and ask for public statements.
Mr. Mayor, we have no speaker cards, but we'll check with Zoom.
Okay.
At this time, anyone attending on Zoom and wishing to speak on public hearing 4A, please raise your hand. At this time, we do have one hand raised. Wahid, I will be allowing you to speak. So once you come over to the Zoom, please unmute yourself.
Hi there, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you guys. Before I give an overview of my maps, I did have a question for Kristen, if she was able to respond.
Yes, I believe she's still with us and will respond.
Okay, perfect. Before I even ask it, thank you so much for your help with the online resources, Kristen. It was really helpful to, be a part of the civic process, and you did a great job of explaining it ahead of time. So thank you for that. The only question I had is with the 4-district map. I was the one that created that new one, and on the DRA site, it shows that they're balanced. So it says a 5.4% deviation, but I know that the staff report had the 11%. So I just wanted to see, is the DRA site wrong, or maybe what was happening? I did link to the staff, the actual DRA live link, so you guys can pull it up there.
Yeah, thank you for that question. this does happen sometimes, that when a person draws a map online, it's the same population numbers, but sometimes there are precincts or census blocks that have not been assigned. So what we do at NDC is we take them off the website and then we process them. And the two things we look for when we're processing the maps are that every part of the city is actually assigned to a district, and second, that the boundaries are contiguous, right? So I will have to go back and look at the online one to see if there may have just been a few blocks that weren't assigned. And sometimes that can significantly throw off the population deviation. Thank you.
I did check, Kristen. Like I said, I put a live link on there. Every block that's available is assigned. So my only request would be if we could just double check. I have the live link on the email just to verify that what the DRA site is showing matches with the staff data. I only had the DRA site per the city to use. So if there's any mistakes, I guess, with the website, I don't have any other tools, unfortunately. But is there a way you guys could maybe get back to me on that? I'm just curious to learn more.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Kristen. I guess the only question I have is is it possible that potentially that is within the DRA site is correct?
I'll have to look at it. And I do believe I have that link in my email as well. So I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Okay. For now, I'll just table that because we need more info there. But I did want to talk a little bit about the force multiplier map. So I had emailed earlier to ask for time. I just wanted to ask if it's okay if I have 7 or 8 minutes to give the background behind the 5-district map, if the council is okay with that. Obviously, I know everyone's time is very precious.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm asking the council, do you want to give him the extra time?
I did request ahead of time, and I emailed the staff.
Okay, thank you.
Since he's the only speaker, and I know it must have taken a long time to put together the map, I would say yes.
Okay.
Sorry, we do have one more speaker.
Yes, yeah, that'll be fine. We'll give you, what'd you say you wanted, 7 minutes?
I mean, 7 to 10. I don't think it'll be more than 10.
That's a lot.
It's a lot to go through the purpose of the 5-district map.
Okay, we're going to go with 5 minutes, and I'll let you know at that time.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Thank you.
So I named the 5-district map the force multiplier map. For a little bit of background for people who don't know what a force multiplier is, it's used in military jargon to imply anything that significantly strengthens the user's ability to accomplish their mission. So an RPG, a tank could be a force multiplier, anything that makes you stronger than just a single human being. The thought behind the force multiplier map was that city council members, you guys, Councilmember Kavanaugh, Judge, the mayor, you guys are the force multipliers. You guys bring your rich backgrounds to bear on the challenges a city encounters, and you work hard to support our senior residents. So I thought, how is our city doing when it comes to population and force multipliers? Do we have enough? Looking at the rest of the cities in the county, we're actually the 3rd worst when it comes to population and city council member numbers. One of the better ones is Ventura. They have about 100,000 people, and they have 7 city council members. You could potentially get rid of one of their city council members. So you could get rid of the person in District 7. He is kind of like our pro temp. His name is Joe Schroeder. He's the deputy mayor there. And Joe Schroeder, so because he's deputy mayor, he's probably well respected by his colleagues. What would Ventura lose if it became, I guess, more like Simi, like less districts? I think what Joe brings is his business acumen. At the age of 35, he became a CEO of a large community bank. Recently, he just retired as the CEO of the Ventura County Credit Union, which is one of the largest businesses in the county. So I know when Joe works in Ventura on the city council to help solve problems, he's working to bring all of his rich background, his business acumen to the council. So I think that it would be a loss for Ventura. So he's acting as this force multiplier. My hope is with the force multiplier map, we bring this new person, whoever they may be, and many hands make light work. So all of the city council members can have less meetings to go to, less committees to be a part of, just everyone kind of doing better. I also think there's some opportunities here. So the Strathern Historical Center, which is part of the District 5, is, this will be my last point, and I'll let go. That particular District 5 Strathern Historical Community is not really represented in our current 4-district map. It's actually split. And I know one of the things that's important is to try to keep communities together. In the Valley, it keeps it as one whole. And going to a 5-district map allows that community to kind of be together. But with that, I feel like I've belabored a lot. I did send a bunch of information. Thank you guys for all your hard work, for reading through all of the items. And you guys made it really easy to read through the materials, be able to generate maps. So thank you to the city council for doing that. I think you guys went above and beyond, as did the staff. And thank you guys for the time as well. I yield the rest of my time to you guys.
Okay, thank you very much for your interest and input.
We do have one more speaker on Zoom. So Rebecca, I'm going to be bringing you in to speak. And please unmute yourself.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Rebecca, and I am just calling in support of, I believe it's District Map 202, which is the one that has the 5 districts. I think that one of the biggest reasons why we went to district voting for city council elections was really to expand representation. And I think it's really important for us to continue to build on that. I don't think it's good to just accept kind of like the minimum. I think there really is an opportunity for us to bring in more diverse representation. And I would like to see an additional district added. I know that previously when we had, or before we adopted the current map that we had, there was a lot of discussion about, how would we increase, or what space would we use in order to allow for more representation? And I think that really is something that is it's like a very minimal discussion that needs to be had, just because there is an ability to participate for potentially an additional council member to participate via Zoom. And I know as a fact that not many of you are currently using the city offices. So I know that was something that was brought up before, the space on the dais, the not having enough space in the office. But I think, the pandemic has really shifted a lot how work gets done. So I really would like to see us move to an increased number of districts. And I think maybe in the future to increase it even more than what we currently have. And something else that was brought up in the report really quickly, I just want to make sure that that you understand how important it is to continuously increase the participation of individuals who have a lot invested in this city. And one of those things was I recently participated in the last training that they did. I hadn't been able to participate in the previous one. So thank you for offering that one. And I would like to see us continue to have this discussion and bring in more community members and hopefully, adopt maybe a district map at the next city council meeting, given that we'll still have time based on the deadline. So mainly my comment is in support of increasing representation, and I definitely like map 202. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other,
At this time,
no more
oh,
Zoom?
wait, hold on, sorry. Nope, we do have two more, sorry. All right, Leanna Brand, we're going to allow you to speak. I'm bringing you into Zoom right now. And then if you could unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Leanna Brand. I am concerned regarding the maps for a couple of reasons. First of all, I would like to see increased representation as well, and so the 5-district map does in fact appeal to me. But the thing that most concerns me right now is I live in the area that is currently on the edge of District 4. Off of Tierra Rajada and Madera in that area. And I see a lot of the draft maps that are changing my district, which would result in me not being able to vote for a city council person again. If you remain with 4 districts and you have then shoved my neighborhood, which is currently in District 4, into District 1, which is what it looked like you wanted to do, or the other thing is District 3, which was another draft that I saw, it would result in my entire neighborhood having a city council that we have not voted for. Since we didn't get to vote for District 1 or District 3, and in the next election, it is District 2 and District 4, if I moved out of District 4 into District 1 or 3, then I don't have a voice, which I am extremely concerned with. And so I would like to have more representation, and actually representation from people I actually get to vote for. So I just wanted to voice that concern, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Joe Pachowski. I'm going to be bringing you over and allowing you to speak. And Joe, if you can unmute yourself.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn, members of the City Council. Some might say that hell hath frozen over, because on one hand, I agree with Leanna Brand. I think the map should be left alone so that everybody has representation on the City Council. And in response to comments that were made earlier about there being a lack of participation, I would just like to point out that in the 2020 election, 88.56% of voters in Simi Valley cast their ballot in the November election. So I don't think participation is really an issue at this point, because we had 88.5% of registered voters casting a ballot, and everyone was mailed a ballot. So if 11.5% or so didn't cast the ballot, I think that they that was probably their decision not to participate, as opposed to choosing to participate because everybody received a ballot. And state law is going to require that ballots be mailed out to everyone moving forward. So I would expect to see that trend of high voter participation to continue as we move forward. And so I would just like to urge you to keep the current maps, since they are compact, they meet the requirements of state and federal law, and they will make sure that everyone will have had an opportunity to vote for a city council member come November 2022 by having Districts 2 and District 4 be elected this year. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
No further comments.
No further.
Yeah.
Okay, stand by. Okay, at this time, we'll take comments from the council, and we're closing the public hearing portion of the hearing. And Councilmember Luevanos has the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a comment and a question. Hopefully, Kristen is still on. Looks like she is. I'm very concerned about the fact that the census data, the census blocks from the DRA, which is the only tool that our residents had available to make maps, didn't match the data that the NDC had. And I'm curious if this doesn't invalidate the process of residents creating maps and having that opportunity to create maps. If the data didn't match, did they really have an opportunity? If you can't, use the same data and make sure that it meets the legal requirements and automatically your map gets thrown out, and you wouldn't know, right? Because if you did have the data, then you would be able to change the data. So I'm very concerned about that. I'm very glad that we had the additional hearing so that residents could, have the guidance to use the tools, and clearly they did because we have 2 more maps. But I am concerned that the census data did not match and that there was a lack of awareness of the legal requirements being met.
Councilman Luevanos, I'm glad you brought that up. I have some of the same concerns, and I think this is a great opportunity to ask Kristen and NDC whether or not they have any change in their recommendations and their opinions as to the current map, as to the validity of the current map in the process.
And can I?
Yes, of course. I'm happy to address that. So there is no discrepancy between the census block geography nor the census block population counts between Dave's redistricting and the more advanced software that we are using as demographers. They match up. There is no discrepancy. Perhaps I should read the response that I typed into the chat on Zoom in response to the question raised by the author of maps 202 and 203, who was asking why their map showed up as looking balanced on the website, but not in my presentation. So I went back and looked at that map, and indeed, one precinct that has a population of 2,788 residents was not assigned to a district. So when I processed the map, I assigned that precinct to the district that encompassed it, and that's how you get the different deviation numbers. Now, if you go on to Dave's, you can easily see this. In the summary box on the left-hand side, there is a UN. That means unassigned, and it will tell you the population that's unassigned. You can also click the Tools button at the top and click Find Unassigned Precincts, and it will zoom to it. So we are using Dave's Redistricting. This is a tool that's been around for a long time. It's very well respected. It's been used for years for national redistricting, and only this year became available for local governments. And we're using it without any data problems with a number of our cities, cities in Ventura County as well. And I will say there are other online tools that do have those data discrepancies. So it's actually a very important question to ask, because there are online tools that are of lesser quality, but we have none of those concerns with DRA. Okay. So thank you for asking.
And just to follow up, if the council were to decide to go ahead and continue on with the current district map, do you have any concerns, or does NDC have any concerns?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, may I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
Thank you. My concern is, during the training, did you specifically state, hey, not all the census, blocks may be in there, you have to click on this, to show the unassigned, the UN, was that part of the presentation so that people knew that they might have unbalanced maps that don't meet the legal, requirements? Was that part of the specific, training that was given? Or is that only or is that information only available on your software? Because when you spoke, it made it sound like that information is only available on the software that you have, but not necessarily the DRA software that the residents have. And sometimes, there's a little pop-up on, GIS, hey, make sure that you check this to make sure it's balanced. So that's my concern. My concern is it wasn't a fair process if they didn't know that this was another thing they needed to add in there to make sure that it was balanced.
Sure, yeah, in the training, and you can go back and watch the recording if you like. I do show the analytics button where you can look at whether or not your map meets the basic requirements, and it's actually quite easy. And so for that particular map, if you click the Analyze button, the very first thing that you'll see on that list is it will say not all precincts have been assigned, and there's a red X mark. So that is, it's a very useful tool in that regard, that it does alert users to those legal requirements. And I'm not sure, this concern about census blocks, all the census blocks are there. There's no missing census blocks or census data. It's all available on the tool.
So it would,
While it is an easy to use tool, people still can make mistakes, and they can submit as many maps as they like. So if they submit a map that is not population balanced, they can submit another that is population balanced. But I also think from the perspective of council, when you're considering these maps, you're not just considering the map itself, but also the themes or the changes that you see in it. And so if there's any particular areas from this map or concepts that you think need to be incorporated into the current map, one option that you have tonight is to direct NDC to make revisions to the current map and bring that back to you. So that's one way that you can incorporate the public submissions. Otherwise, NDC does support the adoption of the current map, as it does meet legal requirements. The only new thing that we want council to consider, right, is if the current district boundaries are dividing any neighborhoods or communities of interest. So that's what I would suggest that you focus in on while you're deciding whether or not to move forward with the current map.
Okay, I have, I'm sorry, Mayor, one last question,
You have more?
if I may. Yes. There was a comment by the public, by Wahid, that the Strathern community was split as currently the maps are stated, and that community of interest is split. If we wanted to make sure that we didn't, could we find a way, or could we extend the deadline? We have till April 17th, right? Could we extend the deadline so that people could, or we could find a way to make sure that that neighborhood, that community of interest is not split? Or do we have to decide tonight? Because it seems like we have time.
Point of clarification, the way I see our current maps, I don't see where Strathern Historical Society is split. It looks like it is clearly within Council District 4.
And Strathern Historical Society belongs to the Park District.
Well, no, they're talking about the community, so like the community around
But
Strathern.
it resides completely contiguous.
In that, right, it's already in there.
Yeah, so it's not the park itself, it's the community. So it's the community or area.
Okay, we're going to
goes around
have
it.
to ask not to have open discussion.
So
Okay, Elaine.
Oh, I was just simply, if I understand what Councilmember Levinos is asking about whether, and it's true that one of the speakers was concerned about Strathern Historical Society and said that it appeared to be split. But my understanding, as I look at our current district mapping, is that it is clearly confined within District 4 currently. And so I'm not understanding that comment of it being divided, so maybe clarification needs to be made, but I believe it is clearly contained within District 4. And I was curious to see that, because I'm the contiguous district in District 3, and I thought, wait a minute, I missed something. And so I was very interested in his comment and wanted to see if I had not been diligent in understanding my district. So that's why I took particular notice.
Yeah, my bigger concern is with, the not having the data available that they needed. And if they put the data in and it showed that it was balanced and wasn't balanced, how is this process really fair? Are we going to get sued? That's my concern.
I think we have a consensus of direction from the consultant, correct?
I think we've gotten enough input from the consultant that gives me a level of comfort.
Okay, so it's time that we entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to select the city's current district map as the city's map and voting district boundaries, and introduce for the first reading district map ordinance number 1334, and set the next public hearing to February 14th, 2022 for a second reading and adoption of the ordinance.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second, call for the vote.
We did,
I just want to explain, and I'm abstaining because it's not clear to me that the process was fair and that our residents had all the information and data they needed to fully participate.
The motion passes with Councilmember Luévanos abstaining.
I also, I mean, I voted in favor, but I would have liked to have an opportunity to just discuss it on the dais a little bit, why we were voting.
Wait a minute. You want to discuss it again now?
No, I didn't feel that, I'm sorry, I didn't feel that we had an opportunity, other than to comment to Councilmember Luévanos' comments. I didn't feel the opportunity was given for us to discuss or address the comments made by the.
Who would you like to have discussion with?
Oh, I would like to, I'm not asking us to redo the vote, but I was hoping that we might have an opportunity to make comments about this map and why, just addressing the responses to those who had spoken. That's all.
I think we'd potentially have to open up the public hearing.
Yeah, you've already made a vote. The time would have been to make those comments just before the vote.
I understand. And so I understand.
Okay, clerk?
I think we're back to item 2 now.
We are back to item 2. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 2, public statements on appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. All comments submitted by email have been provided to the city clerk. However, they will not be read by the city clerk this evening. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted, followed by speakers who are signed on to Zoom to speak for public statements item 2 for a period of no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Mr. Mayor, we have one speaker card for 2. Fred Thomas.
Point of order, Mayor. Just,
I'm sorry?
may I make a point of order? I would just ask in the future that everyone on the dais is given the opportunity to make comments before we vote.
I don't understand. Okay, let's, did I not, did you have access to your?
Yes, she explained.
Huh?
Yeah, it's fine.
And so, did I block anybody from making their?
No, I was fine with the explanation from our expert.
Because I thought with this we had, I keep my eye on it.
No, it's fine. And I should have spoken much quicker before the motion was made, so I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Thomas.
My name is Fred Thomas. I'm a 28-year resident of Simi Valley. I'm just here to talk about a few general items. The first one I was hoping to talk about a couple weeks ago, but as you mentioned, I just had knee surgery and I had a really tough afternoon of physical therapy that day. I spent that evening laying in bed with my knee packed with ice. There was a conversation about the DUI checkpoint and whether it was appropriate for someone to be out warning residents there was a DUI checkpoint ahead. And I personally have a problem with that because the whole purpose of the DUI checkpoints being, yes?
Mr. Thomas, you're speaking under item 2, which is covering.
General.
That would be item 5, the topic you're on now would be item 5.
I am so sorry.
That's right, you can come back.
I'll come back.
All
Okay.
right.
No problem.
Okay. Currently, our Zoom attendees, I do not see any hands up to speak during public statements for 2. So if anybody would like to speak at this time, please raise your hand.
Could you make it clear to them on what the statements are on?
Yes, and
At this point? Okay.
Yes, and it's on appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. Okay, I think we are good to move on.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 3A1, appointment of Simi Valley Council on Aging Executive Board members, and Angel Sierra will be presenting this item.
What did she say?
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. 4 positions will become vacant on the Council on Aging Executive Board when terms expire on January 31st, 2022. Also, a position vacancy announced in September 2021 with the passing of an Executive Board member. The Executive Board advises the City Council on issues impacting seniors and conducts fundraising activities to support senior programs within the community. Recruitment to fill these positions began on October 1st, 2021, and concluded on December 3rd, 2021. The COA received 5 applications, with 1 applicant withdrawing their application. The Council on Aging conducted an election at its January 10th, 2022 meeting and is recommending 4 applicants for appointment to the Executive Board for terms commencing on February 1st, 2022 and concluding on January 31st, 2024. The nominees are Teddy Andrews, Mira Chalfant, Karen Klein, and Diane Lodesur. It is recommended that the City Council approve and the Mayor appoint these 4 applicants nominated to the Council on Aging Executive Board. This concludes the report, and staff is available to answer any questions at this time.
Mayor Pro Tem Litster.
I just wanted to actually say how impressive your 4 resumes are. I just want to make it very clear that the Council on Aging is in very good hands. As we read through and saw the many, many accomplishments you have, we are just very fortunate to have your willingness to serve there. And all we can say is thank you, and we're looking forward to wonderful things in the future. And Councilmember Judge is the official liaison, and I get to be the assistant liaison. So we get to see you in action, and it's really an opportunity. Great things happen there. So thank you for your willingness.
Okay, any other comments? Motion.
I was just going to say congratulations on your election, and best of luck.
Say thank you for your willingness to serve. Thank you very much. And I'm willing to make a motion if people are done commenting.
Ready.
All right, I move to approve and the mayor appoint 4 applicants nominated by the COA, general membership to the Council on Aging Executive Board to serve terms commencing February 1st, 2022 and concluding in January 31st, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and second, and the mayor will automatically appoint after the vote. So we've got to make sure that's in there too, so we don't mess up. So call for the vote.
Mayor, waiting for your vote. The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 3B1, presentation of the 2021 State of the Region report by David Marone of the Ventura County Civic Alliance, and Deputy City Manager Samantha Argabright will introduce Mr. Marone.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. This evening, David Marone of the Ventura County Civic Alliance will be presenting the 2021 State of the Region report. Mr. Marone serves as the State of the Region Committee Chair and has served as the Vice Chair of the Civic Alliance for a number of years. The Civic Alliance focuses on the 3 E's: economy, environment, and social equity interests in the Ventura County region. The State of the Region report is released every 2 years and provides information in 10 areas across Ventura County. Mr. Marone?
Thank you very much, Samantha. And will you be doing the clicking for me? Very good. Okay, thank you. So first of all, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, and members of the audience. As Samantha said, I'm David Marone. We produce the State of the Region report every 2 years. For those of you at home, you can download this from www.civicalliance.org. I also want to acknowledge that for 2022, our incoming vice chair, is Samantha Argabright, so we're very proud to have her continue to serve on our board.
Good choice.
Next slide, please. So we couldn't put out this book, as you know, many of you have heard my presentations before, without the support of the Ventura County Community Foundation, the Ventura County Community College District, and some of our other large sponsors, Era Energy, AT&T, the two universities, County of Ventura and Lima-Nera. And I know you're short on time, so we're going to try and go through here pretty quick. All of this is in the report, but Simi Valley, this is population. Most of the cities in Ventura County have plateaued. Simi Valley is pretty much in a good spot as far as the percentage under 18 and the percentage over 65. Ojai leads the county as far as the percentage over 65. So when you look at this, a lot of good data. The problem in Ventura County, though, is the median age keeps getting higher and higher and higher. We are becoming an older county. We're not having enough children. Next. Agriculture, go ahead. So strawberries continue to be the #1 crop. Next slide. Next slide. I always share the information on the affiliation. So blue is Democrat, green is no party preference, red is Republicans. You can see over time the transition in Ventura County. Democrats have grown slightly. The big jump has always been for the no party preference, taking away from the Republican Party. Next slide. This one breaks it out by city. Simi Valley is now the only city in Ventura County that has a plurality of Republican registration. Those numbers up there for Simi Valley, about 34% Dem, 38% almost for Republicans. It's you can go back, you probably still have your report from 2 years ago to see the prior numbers. Next slide. Next slide. Unemployment, this just shows you the staggering impact of the Great Recession in March of 2010. That was 11%. But when the pandemic hit in April 2020, you can see how unemployment skyrocketed up to a historic 14%. The good news is unemployment has come down. And in fact, today unemployment is at a very low number historically for Ventura County. This slide, I'm just feeling so weird without a pointer. Sit off. But I'm fine. Thank you. So I've showed this one before. As far as the problem in Ventura County, economically speaking, is that we are growing jobs in low-paying industries. Leisure and hospitality, you can see the number of jobs has grown. The number of jobs in education has grown, but high-paying jobs like manufacturing have declined, financial activities, and I believe here in Simi Valley at one time you had a big Bank of America operation, you had a big farmers operation, and those jobs have left, and some of those jobs are now paying about an average of $100,000. So I think within Ventura County, every city is trying to attract those high-paying jobs, IT, financial services. Somehow we got to find a way to do that. Next slide, please. This shows you our economy over the last about 18 years. This is adjusted for inflation. So you can see adjusted for inflation, Ventura County has been basically flat since around 2011. Other areas of the state have grown, but this is a structural problem and something that policymakers need to keep thinking about. We can skip this for time. This is actually new, taxable sales. So we show taxable sales in Ventura County for 2018, 19, and 20, comparing all the cities. You can see a slight decline in Simi Valley, not too bad. All of the cities had to decline because of the pandemic, except Port Hueneme. And I think all of you know why Port Hueneme sales have gone up. So they are doing well in that regard. But interesting, though, is that the city of Ventura is a smaller city population-wise, yet their taxable sales are significantly higher than Simi Valley. So I think it might be because of auto malls. That's my first guess. So next slide. Well, speaking of beach, here's tourism. Now this is West County, so I'll skip over it, but you can see on the West County that they have 56% of tourism dollars, only 44 on this side of the grade. Next. Education. So I mentioned that we are becoming an older county. This puts it into real numbers. So the blue line is K through 8 grades, and the green is high school age. And you can see that the numbers have been declining since about 2012 for the K-8. Right now, at around 2021, we're around 84, 85,000. Projections are for a much steeper decline going forward. Of course, this has real implications as far as closing schools, how we are adjusting to that. There's a little bump for high school kids as the younger kids move through the system, but that's down too. At the bottom are the Simi Valley Unified numbers. The top line there shows you a high of 16,800 back around 2017. The blue is obviously impacted by the pandemic, but you can see there was even a decline before the pandemic, and I'm sure that's going to continue. Next slide. And this is true in the community colleges. So Moore Park is blue, the local college. You can see that they've had a decline in 2021 as well. I just show this real quickly. You could go back and look at it, but the value of education, the longer you stay in school, the more earnings you'll make over your lifetime. You can compare high school to a graduate degree or even a bachelor's. Blue is male, green is female. We still have a big imbalance that needs to be resolved sometimes, so women are paid the same as men, but if you have a kid and they want to go to college, it's worth it. Next. The price of housing, you all know, staggering. The Simi Valley from June 20 to June 21 went up, 600 to 750. That's 25%. That's higher than the county average. So you could see just how expensive it is in Ventura County in just 1 year. Now, different times of the year, you might have different averages, but it's staggering. Next slide. And then you say, well, gee, my kids can't even rent an apartment. Here's why. You can see the blue line is the average apartment rent. That has started moving up, and this is pure economics, supply and demand. The vacancy rate for apartments is down to 1.37%. Not only does that make it expensive, it also puts the landlords in charge of just the requirements. So you go and you apply and you think, well, I'm making $5,000 a month. I should have no problem. What's your credit score? How much deposit? What are your other things? They can look at so much because they can be so picky on who they're going to let into those apartments. But you can see Simi Valley, 2367 is the average for all apartment sizes. Next. Average water use, you compare against the other cities. Next. Landfill. I know you're all gonna wanna stay up tonight to study that. Next, public health. This is something we've talked about in the past, the overdose deaths, opioids. I always like to remind everybody, opioids are legal and illegal drugs. So it's a problem across all of the counties. You can see all of the counties in our area have spiked except the red one, which is Santa Barbara. So this is a problem that is going on. And of course, the police and everyone else is seeing the amount of fentanyl coming into the country. It is a major issue. Next slide. Some good news, and this breaks out property crime on top violent on top, property on the bottom. We've updated this chart to show you 3 years worth so you can see all of the cities as they're doing. Simi Valley is still doing really well. Moore Park, though, is doing a little better. Next. Homelessness. You're all familiar with that. Next. Domestic violence is in here. Simi Valley doing much better than most of the other cities. Next. Transportation. And I only have about 30 more slides to go. No. Transportation, bike lanes, you could see Simi Valley right there in the upper part of the pack as far as the amount of miles for that. So I know you're short on time and we can stop there. That's my final slide. That Civic Alliance has been doing this since 2002. Again, the report is available to any organizations if you want a presentation to a Rotary, a neighborhood council, and it can be downloaded at our website, civicalliance.org. Thank you very much for your time.
David, thank you very much. I really look forward to your report every couple of years. And coming up next, you may want to stay and watch this because we're going to talk about economic development and we're going to fix all the negatives that were in your report. And
Should I come up there and help you?
Right here.
Okay.
Right here.
Just asking. I'm going to leave some of these reports out of the back too.
Great.
For
Thank
everybody.
you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 3B2, Economic Development Presentation, and Linda Swan and Kelly Tinker will be presenting this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and City Council. This evening, Management Analyst Kelly Tinker, who is present with us on Zoom, and I would like to provide a presentation regarding economic development as well as share some key economic indicators showing a trend of business resiliency within the city. Although COVID-19 led to an unprecedented disruption of commerce in most industry sectors, many businesses weathered the pandemic and shutdowns and are now seeing signs of recovery as they continue to navigate through the ever-changing landscape of COVID. So in response to the severe economic and health impacts affiliated with COVID, federal and local funding was distributed to the Simi Valley community. The county sponsored 4 rounds of grant funding. A total of 1,199 Simi Valley businesses have received a combined total of over $11 million through the 4 rounds of grant funding from the county. Additionally, over 5,500 local Simi Valley businesses received over $308 million in federal COVID-19 funding through the Paycheck Protection and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan programs. The city partners with several agencies to provide resources and workshops that help our business community. Through the partnerships listed on the slide, the city is able to call upon persons and organizations with expertise in each field. For over 25 years, the Economic Development Collaborative of Ventura County, called the EDCVC, has been and remains the primary business resource for companies of all sizes doing business in the city and Ventura County. To help support the volume of people requesting assistance due to disruptions during the height of the COVID pandemic, the EDC offered weekly webinars to help nonprofits, self-employed individuals, and employees navigate through the aid relief packets, the CARES Act, and expanded benefits available at the same time under the Employment Development Department. The Small Business Development Center, operated by the EDC, provides business owners with access to capital and over 50 professional advisors at no cost to local businesses. As you can see, SCORE, Weave, and the EDC have provided a variety of workshops ranging from social media strategies, developing a business plan, learning QuickBooks, and managing finances. All services by the EDC are provided in multiple languages. So moving along to vacancy rates, staff is presenting a snapshot of the city's industrial, office, and retail vacancies for a 2-year period, pre-pandemic and current conditions. The statistics reflect some right sizing in the office market, with trends showing that companies are moving to more open floor plans with less square footage, a robust demand for industrial property, creating historically low vacancy rates, and a retail market that is showing resiliency and holding steady during a pandemic. It is important to point out that the Simi Valley Town Center just began to report their data to CoStar in January, which is slightly inflating the year-to-date numbers in Q1 '22 for retail vacancy, despite seeing some larger vacant spaces being leased, like the former Bed Bath & Beyond location. So providing some insight to the fluctuations in the office sector over the past several years, Bank of America consolidated operations in other states and moved out of Simi Valley, which puts approximately 591 square feet of office space back up on the market, with buildings located at 1757 and 1800 Chapel Canyon Road and 400 National Way becoming vacant. Additionally, the former Farmers Insurance Building, along with their satellite offices located on Cochran Street, added an additional 270,000 square feet of office vacancy. With the rezoning and approval of the residential mixed-use development at the Farmers site and the 3 Bank of America buildings now converted to light industrial, we're now beginning to see the right sizing of the office market and a more accurate picture of office space vacancy. So through this transition, the city gained employment opportunities with the conversion of buildings to Amazon facilities and the construction of over 350,000 square feet of new industrial space, as well as needing housing opportunities. According to a study released today, California's small businesses are citing the biggest challenge they face is hiring employees. 98% of small businesses cited the challenge, compared to 81% citing inflation, 77% citing supply chain issues, and 70% citing COVID issues. I'm not sure if Mr. Tinker is on Zoom and he has opportunity to speak.
And good evening, Mayor Mashburn, members of the City Council. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. Regarding vacancy detail, diving in deeper to the vacancy rates and space available, we've broken out data by industry classification. So looking at the industrial market, we have 19 total spaces available for lease, amounting to 66,646 square feet total. And to give some comparison or background, the city has 8 million square feet of industrial space in total. Of the available space to lease, 47% or 9 spaces have square footage of less than 2,000 square feet in total. 32% of that is space with only square footage of 2,000 to 5,000 square feet. 21% or 4 units with square footage of 5,000 to 15,000 square feet. And we have 0 spaces available for anything over 15,000 square feet. So what that means is if we have a business that's looking for anything above 15,000, a business that wants 50,000 square feet or more, we would lose them potentially to other cities in the county that have available space. The new industrial space that's under construction will position the city to be better able to host new employers that are looking to relocate. So in industry vacancy detail, some of the listings that we have where those larger vacancies exist, if you can see on the screen, are 520 East Easy Street, 2259 Ward, 685 East Cochrane, and 4487 Ish Street. So moving into the retail vacancy, looking at the retail sector, the city has 6.2 million square feet of retail space in total. Currently, we have 190 spaces available to lease. And of that available space, 60% or 115 spaces have square footage of 2,000 square feet or less. 29% or 55 spaces have square footage of 2,000 to 5,000 square feet. 9% or 17 spaces are for units with square footage of 5,000 to 15,000 square feet. And 2% or only 3 spaces have units that are square footage of larger than 15,000. Some of the retail listings that represent our larger vacancies, we have the movie theater on Los Angeles Street. That's 37,000 square feet that's been vacant for quite some time. It's difficult to find a tenant for that configuration because of the building being a movie theater and configured as such. The Cost Plus World Market and former Marone Grill sites, city staff continues to engage with potential interested parties. Country Club Drive property adjacent to CVS in Wood Ranch, that was formerly a grocery store, and the property's been vacant for some time as well, as the owner continues to express interest in obtaining another grocer to fill that vacancy. Adjacent to Sprouts on Sycamore, that's 13,557 square feet. And this space has been vacant for a longer period of time as well, because it's a sublease and less attractive to tenants as it ties the new tenant to the master lease of Sprouts. The former Bed Bath & Beyond property, that owner has signed a letter of intent and should be removed from the available listings once that lease agreement is executed. So we can see that a larger number of the retail vacancies, a total of 165 spaces, lay in square footage that are typically occupied by small business tenants who need square footage of 5,000 or less. During the past 20 plus years, an unprecedented number of malls and shopping centers were being constructed throughout the county. You layer that with the popularity of e-commerce, and then add in the fact that many national retailers are choosing a smaller format as an adjustment. And we may be looking at data that shows that we over-retailed, indicating there may be too much square footage and not enough retail to fill it. That said, a vacancy rate of 9% is not unhealthy for a community the size of Simi Valley, and it presents many opportunities for new mom and pop businesses to start in the city. However, these businesses were hampered during COVID because many financed those businesses with credit cards or home equity loans, both of which were difficult to access. Moving into the office sector, the city has approximately 1.8 million square feet of office space in total. Currently, there are 62 spaces available made up of the following: 63% or 39 spaces with square footage of less than 2,000, 26% or 16 spaces with square footage ranging from 2,000 to 5,000, 10% or 6 spaces with square footage ranging from 5,000 to 15,000, and only 1 space, 1%, with more than 15,000 square feet available. Leasing office space can be troublesome for property owners if a broker is not utilized, or if a marketing plan is not in existence, or if a large majority of the building is leased by a single tenant, or if a building is older and doesn't provide new amenities. Here's a list of some of our other vacancies, the larger vacancies in the city. 4100 Guardian. This is a 47,000 square foot available office space within a building that's occupied by another tenant. 1900 Los Angeles, 1919 Williams, and 2925 Sycamore. And once again, the data shows us that the majority of space available was for tenants requiring square footage of less than 5,000 square feet. And Linda, I'll kick it back over to you.
So consumer spending has remained strong during COVID. Simi Valley businesses have shown incredible resiliency, pivoting to online sales formats that allow many to actually see business growth. The city's push of information regarding available funding has also provided a lifeline for many businesses that were unable to make necessary adjustments due either to the type of business they have or other circumstances. Here's a snapshot of sales tax for the major industry groups for Q2 21, which is the most current data on hand for the city. Consistent with historical trends, the three largest industry sectors that brought in sales tax dollars is general consumer goods, internet sales, and autos and transportation. So for Q2 21, the city experienced solid returns from most businesses types within the general consumer goods sector, including electronics, appliance stores, family apparel, specialty and variety stores, and home furnishings. So positive results were realized from new motor vehicle dealers, auto repair shops, heavy industrial printers, office supplies and furniture, and convenience stores and liquor. Demand for fuel was solid, and the sales tax associated increased significantly. So with continued strong consumer spending, easing supply chain constraints, and strength in manufacturing and non-manufacturing surveys, our tax consultant HDL tells us that the economy is on strong footing up to and through the fourth quarter of 2022. However, there is an anticipated leveling of consumer activity beginning in 2023, which will return to moderate but stable growth in sales. Go ahead, Mr.
So Simi Valley continues to be a desirable location for businesses and their employees. Workers and businesses simply want to be in a community where the infrastructure is reliable, where the environment is safe, and access to staff and elected officials just to call or any. To illustrate, let's look at some of the new developments recently constructed or those that are currently in our development queue. So the first slide shows the Point on West Hills Court, 61,000 industrial square feet estimated for completion in 2022 with a tenant already in place. The second property is the Parkinson project on East Cochrane, 37,324 industrial square feet, formerly a vacant parcel abutting the railroad tracks and soon to be a brand new industrial space. On the next slide, we have an Entertainment Earth on Camisa Drive, and it demonstrates value in the amenities in Simi Valley. Entertainment Earth is currently located on Moreland Road, and they'll be expanding operations and working with a developer to build a new building specifically for their operations and needs. It's going to keep about 200 jobs here locally and create state-of-the-art headquarters and distribution center, adding 200,000 square feet of occupied industrial square footage to the built community. 865 East Cochrane Street, which is formerly the Simi Valley Unified School District location, that offers up to 115,000 square feet with 23 separate industrial condominiums. And they began selling and leasing to tenants in 2021. And they already have less than 30% of their remaining units available. The Zeebeck property on North Chain Drive, that is 508,000 square feet of industrial space, or it will be. 6 industrial buildings on a large vacant parcel abutting the railroad tracks, the last large vacant parcel that the city of Simi Valley has available. The Guardian Ridge property, that's going to be 49,980 square feet of industrial space, 16 condos, industrial condos for sale or lease, ranging from 2,300 to 4,400 square feet, and estimated for completion in Q2 of 2022. And the Tapo Commerce Center, that's 5 separate industrial buildings and a complex totaling 344,056 square feet, replacing the formerly vacant office space and meeting the community needs for new industrial space. And that's estimated for completion in Q3 of 2022. The last couple of properties on here, 4753 East Los Angeles Avenue, that's a 5-acre vacant parcel currently, and it is in construction for a 2-story self-storage building and industrial space as well. And then in 2022, the city's going to have a total of 900,000 square feet of new industrial space. As mentioned earlier, the city's in talks with prospective tenants for Bed Bath Beyond and Cost Plus. Amazon now has 2 separate warehouse and distribution centers in the city of Simi Valley. And the former Kingsbridge building located at 2950 North Madera Road now houses River Plate, a fulfillment logistics warehouse and distribution center that calls Simi Valley home. Their service includes e-commerce fulfillment, pick and pack, custom warehousing, and distribution, freight logistics, and support services. Chatsworth Products Incorporated is in the process of relocating their Chatsworth operations to 4175 Guardian Street, strategically locating themselves to Simi Valley with the goal of consolidating Lake Village and Agora locations here. CPI serves critical technology equipment needs with products and services that protect infrastructure investment in information and communication technology in industrial enclosure markets. As mentioned earlier, Entertainment Earth will be expanding operations on Camisa, keeping 200 jobs here locally and creating that state-of-the-art headquarters and distribution center, adding 200,000 square feet of industrial space to the community. And the coffee connoisseurs in Simi Valley can look forward to new Starbucks locations on Stearns, which is currently undergoing demolition and expected to open in May of 2022. And then on Yosemite and Los Angeles, which is slated to open shortly as the final building inspection is now being requested. California Car Cover is welcomed into the community in 2020. We also have Denny's that has recently submitted plans for a tenant improvement at 5197 East Los Angeles Avenue in the Smart and Final Shopping Center. On Track and Field Incorporated, a sporting goods equipment dealer specializing in track and field equipment, joined Simi Valley in Q3 of 2021. And Oakmont Senior Living, Vista at Simi Valley, and Veranita are new additions that provide assisted living and memory care for our senior population. And finally, Platt and Stone, a family-owned company that has been making cast stone products for over 30 years, located on Easy Street.
The city is seeing a continued investment in the community through various business transactions. In October 2021, the 290,000 square foot distribution center leased to Amazon sold for $128 million, an amount 8 times the 2020 purchase price of $16 million. Rexford Industrial Realty, a Los Angeles-based company, purchased the 242,000 square foot building from Topaz Distribution at 2288 Ward Avenue for $46.4 million. Topaz bought the building for $14 million in 2012 and added 40,000 square feet in 2015. Tenants at the property include Tire Hub, Sooner Express, and Frontline, as well as Topaz, which will continue to take around 51,000 square feet of building. The Villas at Wood Ranch, a 2-property multifamily portfolio with 500 units, sold for $190 million, nearly $377,000 per unit. And Stream Development acquired the former Bank of America location at Los Angeles Avenue and Tapo Canyon and is under construction in the industrial complex there. And though not on the slide, Festival Companies, owners of the Simi Valley Town Center, have acquired the closed East Macy's box, consolidating ownership of the entire mall district. So what is on the horizon? City Council and staff will continue to work with the Simi Valley Town Center and assist in any way possible to promote the development of the town center. We're going to continue to partner with the EDCVC and request a more physical presence in the East Valley to make the community aware of their no-cost services. As part of the American Rescue Plan, proposed expenditure plan, staff is suggesting that establishment of a small business revolving loan fund to provide capital to assist businesses to grow through the acquisition of equipment or other business changes that will increase jobs and business revenue. We are contracting the services of the Nadelson Dale Group to perform an economic development study for Simi Valley. The study will evaluate existing economic community, the workforce conditions currently in existence in the city, as well as an evaluation of the conditions in the region. So the city has prior experience with Nadelson Dale Group as they prepared the economic development and feasibility study for the Simi Valley Town Center prior to its development, and have extensive knowledge of Ventura County through their work with communities in Ventura County. So their regional experience will allow them to contrast and compare conditions that exist in Simi Valley with those in other cities. So the study will include retail demand analysis, office industrial demand analysis, target industry clusters and cluster development, as well as hotel market study. So to complement the economic development study, staff will incorporate findings of Gruen Associates funded by the SB2 and LEAP grant funding into our plan for the Los Angeles Avenue and Tapple Street corridor specific plan, which will focus on economic strategies, sustainability, job, housing balance, and fit. So this concludes staff's presentation, and we are available for some questions.
Any question? Councilmember Luevanos.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions. The first one is, I'm glad, thank you so much for this report. I love all the graphics and the visuals. Thank you. I appreciate that. So my first question is, will this be available for the rest of the residents to see? Can we post this on the website somewhere?
Sure, I think
Yes?
we could do that, yes.
Okay. My second question is, with regard to, the shrinking of the budget across the county, and the mismatch between our, our housing and our employers. I'm curious, all of these employers you mentioned, Amazon, Starbucks, CPI, Veronita, how many of these are bringing those high-paying jobs? Do you know? And I know that's a very specific question. If not, can you get back to me with that?
We certainly can. Maybe Mr. Gabler has more information for you.
It's a bit of a mixed bag. There's a misnomer that manufacturing is a low-income job, but actually the average manufacturing job pays over $80,000. So all that being said, we'd be more than happy to kind of take a look at some of the new jobs that are coming into the community, looking at the average pay scales that are assigned to those jobs for Ventura County, and we can come up with some rough numbers on what that means. There's you've got a mix of hospitality and coming into the community, as well as the assisted living facilities. So you've got the nursing aspect, the healthcare aspect of it. You've got a lot of warehousing and manufacturing jobs coming into the community as well that do pay a greater number than people think. But we can come up with something and provide that information. I'll note that the intent is to bring this back on a quarterly basis. So we'll keep updating the information for the city council.
And I greatly appreciate the information and the report and all the details and the data and the graphics, and I really appreciate that. One of the things that you mentioned was that Simi Valley continues to be a desirable place for businesses, but that they're looking for, infrastructure. So I know we're working on our fiber network. Yes, Mr. Gabler?
Yes.
Is that something that we're going to make, businesses aware, whether they're small businesses or industrial spaces, so that, they know, hey, we're a desirable place to be. Look at what we're working on. Look at how we're, are we making businesses aware of that? And the other thing that, we have passed new ordinances like, allowing wine and, beer in industrial spaces. Like, are people aware of that as well with all these new industrial spaces coming online? Because I see that as another way to, draw people to the city.
So the Sci-Fi Network just started construction last month. We have done some PR for them and with them to get the word out. It's going to be about a 2.5 year project to wire up the entire city. But at the end of the day, Simi Valley is going to be a big gigabit community. Only one in Ventura County, very few in California. So it's going to be very noteworthy for us. And we are very happy to be able to make sure that everyone knows about it. So we will be selling that to the community and the business community. What's noteworthy is that we are attracting a number of businesses even without that ability. We are financially better for businesses than what they're finding in the Los Angeles basin area. We regularly tell businesses, if you just change your zip code to 93065 or 93063, you save money day one. And we continue to tout that fact that we are an advantageous location for businesses to be.
Okay, and my last question with regard to the infrastructure. I know we're going to talk later, so I don't want to violate the Brown Act, but I will be bringing up later, the infrastructure. Does that include roads, I'm assuming? Yes?
Yes. Oh yes. We've got a plan for roads.
Okay.
Yes.
And then one last question, and thank you for indulging me. You talked about the vacancy rate is 9% in Simi Valley and that it's not in healthy. Does that include the vacancy rates at the mall or not? Because in the past, you guys have differentiated. That doesn't include the mall or it doesn't include the mall. So that 9% vacancy rate of retail spaces Does that include the Simi Valley Town Center or not?
So for the quarter, the most recent quarter, Q1, 2022, the mall is in there. So Simi Valley Town Center started reporting to CoStar at the end of December. So now that reflects it. That's why we kind of are starting to see maybe just a little bit of uptick, because now we have the Simi Valley Town Center incorporated into that number.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Lister.
Thank you. And Councilmember Lotos, just to ask my first question, which is fine. I wanted to confirm that because believe you'd stated that. So it took it from about 9% to 9.22% with the inclusion of the mall
Yes.
data. Is that correct? Okay, and that's helpful. But my second question was going to be one of, as I understand from Mr. Tinker's report, that with all the new development, there should be a new industrial space online of about 900,000 square feet this year, if I understood the figure he gave. Do we have a sense of how much of that has already been spoken for, or do we have any idea of?
Usually, it's very difficult to get tenants interested until the walls start going vertical. The brokers do a very good job marketing the properties to clients that they're aware of, as well as to the industry. But until you actually have walls standing up, it's very difficult to get tenant interest. Now, that being said, we are already getting tenant interest today in Simi Valley. And in fact, I'm working with a company that's in the San Fernando Valley right now that they need they're in 29,000 square feet right now. They need between 25 and 35,000 square feet. We've just got nowhere to put them. And we're introducing them to these newer developments in order to, if they can look far enough in advance, that's an option for them. So not only is the city introducing tenants to these new developments that are coming along, the brokers are as well.
I hear. Okay, that's very good. And I will just say from personal experience, having moved our company here 2 years ago, that was probably one of the best things we did for our company. And we were very grateful to be moved into Ventura County and specifically Simi Valley. So I suspect it will go quickly. So thank you very much for that report.
Anybody down there?
May I just want to make one comment in regards to the EDC. I was speaking to the city manager a little bit earlier, and that was one of my goals this year, is to bring more of the EDC into it since I sit on the board. In fact, we had our 25th anniversary dinner, or a Zoom meeting, on the 20th, and that was one of the things I told Ray Bauman. I said, you need to come to Simi Valley, and we need to get some stuff going here. So that's a goal that I want to work with you guys on too. So I'm looking forward to that. And there, again, every meeting I report on it, I say there's so much there that we need to utilize and that our businesses just need to know about. So the city manager has promised to help me out on that.
Hey, can I brag about you just a little? Aren't you the vice chair of the EDC VC?
Yes, I was just elected as vice chair for this year.
Yeah, so
So
that's
we'll work
gonna,
with
EDC
yeah.
VC has been doing a very good job
Councilmember
in the
Alden.
county. It's even going to be much better now with Dee Dee's voice there to urge them to come to the East County, which is Simi Valley. So, thank you.
And can I ask a question of the vice chair?
How
of the
about if we
EDC?
go to the next speaker first?
That's right.
Are you talking about Dee Dee?
I wanted to ask Dee Dee a question, whether you're talking about the goal of moving, and was articulated, of having it here in the East County. Is that, they have a physical presence in?
Their office location is in Camarillo.
Camarillo. So could
Correct.
they have a satellite office in the?
No, but they have they're available on Zoom and all kinds of other, whatever electronic accessibility we have. But just talking with the city manager, he said he will work with me and/or the EDC so we can have a physical presence here.
That's what yes.
So I think that will be very beneficial.
That'll be your office.
Yeah, they can use my office. That's fine. I have one at work.
Okay, Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you for that very comprehensive report. We've been waiting a long time to hear some good news in our economic situation here. And I know all the people have too, because of all the pandemic stuff. They've been hearing nothing but doom and gloom for the last couple of years. So I was very impressed by that report, and thanks again.
And I'd just like to echo what Councilmember Judge says. I don't know how you find time to put something like that together. I guess it's your excellent staff helping you, Linda, but that was a superb report. And I'm very happy to hear that we might be seeing it on a quarterly basis. That's great.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 3C1, an informational report by Youth Council member Alden Ta.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn, members of the City Council. My name is Alden Ta, and I am a current junior at Santa Susana High School, as well as a second-term community-at-large representative on the Youth Council. I'd like to preface this report by saying it is an honor to be here tonight. Tonight I will be providing a report, or an overview rather, of the Youth Council's activities since our last meeting. Unfortunately, I must announce that the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute notified us that the annual Youth Town Hall event scheduled for Friday needed to be postponed due to a recent surge in COVID-19 cases in the area. However, I am excited to announce that the Youth Council, along with the Reagan Education Team, are underway with plans to combine the annual Youth Town Hall and our annual Youth Summit. This new event, which we are currently working on a name for, has been scheduled to take place on Thursday, March 10th. We still plan on coordinating a service project in conjunction with the new event itself, which will involve collecting clothing donations to give to the Samaritan Center of Simi Valley. And as we proceed into 2022, our various committees have been hard at work forming proposals, committee plans, and virtual content on behalf of the Youth Council. All of our committees are now in full swing working to complete our work plan goals. These committees include mental health, school infrastructure, sexual assault awareness and prevention, fundraising, youth summit, and talent show. Several of these committees have given specific reports as to their accomplishments throughout the last several weeks. Our social media committee has been primarily focused on keeping up to date with content for our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube accounts. And I would urge everyone in the audience and, of course, members of our City Council to follow us at Simi Valley Youth Council to stay updated for our recent events and developments. Next, both our Mental Health Committee and Fundraising Committee have formulated specific work plans and proposals respective to each committee, with our Fundraising Committee also planning a restaurant fundraiser on Friday, February 25th at Yogurtland. The digital flyer for the fundraiser will be shared on social media next month. And with that, I now conclude our Youth Council informational report. I'd like to express my gratitude to the members of the City Council and Mayor Mashburn for this opportunity to speak today. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, any questions or accolades, which are definitely accepted?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I want to thank you for coming to give this report. It takes a lot of courage to come to before City Council and be on TV, on YouTube, and live. So thank you for coming to give this report. And I want to commend Youth Council. As you know, Youth Council was formed specifically to advise us, the City Council, on what are the needs and issues that are impacting our youth. So for you guys to take on, such heavy issues like mental health and discrimination and sexual assault, like that really shows that you are taking seriously your role, your responsibility in addressing the issues that are most impacting us in the community. So I want to thank you guys for taking that on, for again providing the bridge. You guys have been phenomenal through this pandemic. You guys just switched on a dime and you pivoted so that you could meet the needs, and you're doing it again. I'm sorry to say that you have to do it again and combine your youth summit and youth town hall, but I got to tell you, it just shows how all the marketable skills that you guys have as Youth Council, and what an asset you guys are going to be to the universities and colleges and whatever job and futures that you seek. So I just want to commend you all for all the work that you're doing. Know that you can count on us for your support. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Any other comments? Yeah. After you get back from your whichever university or college you go to, please return to Simi Valley and use those skills here and the skills you're learning today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, we're returning to the public hearing portion of the meeting. Agenda item 4B, a public hearing to consider adoption of an interim urgency ordinance by a 4/5 vote, extending for up to an additional 22 months and 15 days rules and regulations for developing 2-unit residential developments and subdividing single-family residential properties in response to State Senate Bill 9, declaring the urgency thereof and making a determination that the ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Ordinance number 1335, an urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley, extending for up to an additional 22 months and 15 days rules and regulations for developing 2-unit residential developments and for subdividing single-family residential properties in response to State Senate Bill 9, declaring urgency thereof and making a determination that the ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. Sean Gibson and Elizabeth Richardson will be presenting this item.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn, members of the City Council. Our Associate Planner, Elizabeth Richardson, will now have the presentation.
Screen. There we go. Yes. Okay. Good evening. Tonight we will be presenting a request for a time extension to an urgency ordinance that established objective zoning, design, and subdivision standards in response to new state law SB 9. As a reminder, SB 9 is a new housing law that promotes small-scale neighborhood residential development by creating a streamlined process for homeowners to create 2-unit developments or subdivide their existing single-family zone properties. Development using SB 9 is ministerial and does not require a public hearing. On December 20th of 2021, the City Council adopted an urgency ordinance as a measure to establish rules and regulations for developing 2-unit residential developments and subdividing single-family residential properties in response to SB 9. SB 9 became effective on January 1st, 2022. The approved urgency ordinance, also known as an interim ordinance, was adopted for a 45-day term, which will expire on February 2nd, 2022. The City Council has an option to adopt a second urgency ordinance with a minimum 4/5 vote to extend the interim rules and regulations for a maximum of 22 months and 15 days, which would end on December 17th, 2023. The time extension will allow staff to refine the rules and regulations pertaining to SB 9 development and incorporate potential amendments and interpretations to the state law. It will also allow for the ordinance to receive full Planning Commission review prior to returning to the City Council for final approval. While staff prepares a final ordinance, SB 9 development will still be able to occur using the interim rules and regulations as required by state law. And staff recommends that the City Council adopt Urgency Ordinance 1335 and extend the urgency ordinance to December 17th, 2023. And that concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for questions.
Prior to starting with questions, are there any ex parte communications to report? None? Okay. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Litzner.
So I realize that this is a request to basically extend what we did in December, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
Is there any wording change that's being recommended between what we did in December and what's being requested right now?
No.
Okay, that was my understanding. So I have just a question, maybe for clarification, as I read it again the second time through. In page 18, it talks about property ownership. 2-unit development may not occur unless an owner has occupied for 3 years. And I'm guessing that is language that is taken initially from the bill. But I'm trying to understand, can we clarify that in some way in these objective standards, that they have to have been there? For example, I guess my question is then, can someone purchase the property, make the split, and then choose to stay there for 3 years? Do they have to have already resided for 3 years and then desire to make the split? In my mind, it's pretty open-ended. Can we, in our standards, can we specify that?
So there's a couple ways you could do this. We can get further clarification through the state of California when these issues start to come up. When we study the proposed final ordinance, we could explore updating our code to address the interpretations that the state comes down with and legal interpretations that come out. So that can happen while this interim ordinance is in place.
So I guess, so when someone comes to do the lot split, Is that a question that you ask? How long have you owned this property? Or do you live on this property? Are those questions that are part of the application?
I think you're talking pre-development, and the ownership is required post-development. If you look on page 23, at the top, number 4, owner must occupy one of the units as primary residence for a minimum of 3 years from the approval of the final map for the urban lot split. So once the property is split, that starts the 3-year clock.
And was that placed by, I mean, is that in the bill, that we've taken that language from the bill, or is that part of what our interpretation is?
That's language taken from the bill.
Okay.
And so the general rules, you can't necessarily be less stricter than what the state
Sure.
law already requires. So, and it is still subject to interpretation.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm curious, page 38 in the report, attachment B states that many cities have not yet passed an urgency ordinance, which I commend our city for not taking that chance, but instead are following the state requirements. And so I guess my question is, what does that mean? What's the difference?
I think the city of Simi Valley is being proactive.
Yes,
And I think
yes.
that's a good thing. I know there are some cities that are not following along, and they're challenging the laws, the city of Torrance, Carson, and Redondo Beach. But the difference being that those are charter cities.
I see. So you're saying that they're challenging the law and not choosing to put anything in? Got it.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Thank you. And speaking of challenging that law, I know 2 weeks ago I requested we consider joining the local the research what is that called? The one neighborhood. What is that? What is that? I've got it right in front of me.
The legislation challenging
One neighborhood, yeah.
SB 9.
SB 9.
Yes.
And so I guess I'd like to bring that back in a discussion, maybe now, and my question is now the time for that discussion to be part of it, or does that need to be 9B again?
Hold on, let's let the city
You can bring
attorney.
that up under 9B.
Bring it up under 9B? Okay.
Yes, please.
I'll do it. Fair enough, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Luevanos.
It's not so much a question as a clarification, but just for our audience out there, on page 2, it says that adopting the ordinance extension will still allow residents to develop SB 9 units using the interim rules, right? So we will have something in place for the, like if someone put an application already, this will still apply. They're good, they're covered, yes?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify that because people were asking, residents asked me, what does that mean? Does it not apply? I'm like, no, it still applies, but I just wanted clarification
That's
from the
correct.
staff.
You come in tomorrow and talk to us.
Okay, thank you so much. That's it, thank you, Mayor.
Okay,
May I make a motion, Mayor?
yes, you.
We have,
We have a
opened up
public hearing, so we have to,
public-
yeah.
Yeah. Sir, is there any
Yes.
cards or?
we do have
Zoom?
2 speaker cards. Elena Johnson?
And members of the City Council, a very pleasant good evening. I know it's 8:30, and I'll make my comments quite short. But I came here to tell you that, number one, I had the opportunity to listen to the recorded meeting that talked about the city-initiated interim urgency ordinance that is actually, in my mind, a mitigation for the impact of Senate Bill 9 to Simi Valley. And I agree with you, Ms. Lister. And by the way, I am in your district. I've just found out, right? And it is our way of making sure that the Senate Bill 9, which, unless we sue or go against, is here, January 1. And I applaud the Simi Valley City Council with your leadership. As I've always said this, I admire the work that you do for the city because you took the proactive step of doing the study to make sure that we have an ordinance that will study the impact of SB 9. I'm very happy, with the standards that was discussed in terms of unit sizes, enclosed parking, tree removal and landscaping requirements, setbacks for the buildings, distances between single-story homes and distances between two-story homes. That's very important to me because I see a lot of people moving into my neighborhood. Although they are not from SB 9 or ADU, it's multi-families living in the same houses, and I understand that. Don't get me wrong here. We can never stop the influx of people to Simi Valley because when I came here, that was my goal, to live in a city as good as Simi Valley. So we are very attractive to people coming from all over the place. So I'm here to tell you that having listened to that and listening to the gentleman's presentation tonight in terms of having the time to look at what we're going to be implementing and reviewing. You know, I know Councilman Louis Baños, you actually made the motion to pass that ordinance, and you express your concern about the problems that traffic will bring to our city. And I really like your suggestion of exploring more services for transportation. And the other presentation talks about bike paths, you know, and increasing walking to different distances. And I see that people are building condominiums, especially senior citizen housing, close to commercial areas so that our people will not have to drive the car and mitigate the impact of additional units. So I'm here very shortly to let you know that I urge the district to, I'm going to read it very carefully so I don't want to make a mistake, to adopt the interim urgency ordinance by 4/5 vote, extending for up to an additional 22 months and 15 days that will expire December 17, 2023. I applaud your leadership and your proactive measures in making sure that we don't exclude people who want to live in Simi Valley, but make sure that if they do, they kind of like carry the aesthetic value of the city, and also make sure that improvements to the personal property that the person is going to convert is acceptable to the neighbors. Also, you may want to consider that in the discussion, they're talking about the deed requirement of making the owner, I don't know how far we are in that one, but making the owner of the AD or SB9 property to remain in the property for 3 years. And I thank you for your time. And again, I'm very, very impressed by the leadership that you have provided to our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheryl Welch.
Hello, City Council. Thank you so much for listening and listening to all of us today. I'm sorry I'm not that prepared. I'm on my phone. That was the best I could do. I'm up here to encourage you to continue to push back on SB4 regarding SB9 so that you wait on the SB9. I love what you've proposed, and so I just want to encourage you to continue with that. And so I'm just going to read a few things regarding that. The first one is a quote from Ben Carson, who was the Secretary of HUD under Donald Trump. Our suburbs are the epitome of the American dream, where people from all walks of life have laid down roots. These neighborhoods should make zoning decisions, not Washington or the state. Sorry. Why is California building new homes? Why does California have a housing crisis? Sorry. The imbalance between supply and demand resulted from a strong economic growth causing hundreds of thousands of new jobs, which increases demand for housing, and the insufficient construction of new housing units to provide enough supply to meet the demand. A recent article from the Los Angeles Times. The two trends signal that population loss due to domestic migration out of the Golden State has more than doubled since the beginning of the pandemic. The pattern has rippled across California. New entrances to the state have dropped in every county since the end of March 2020. When Californians do move, researchers said they are slightly more likely to leave the state than they were before the start of the pandemic. Entrances to California from other states have dropped 38% since March of last year, while the number of residents leaving to other states has increased 12%. the report from the Nonpartisan California Policy Lab said. So, I mean, I could go another direction. I don't want to do that just yet. I want to hear everything that you have to say. But I just wanted to share that with you as a concern. If that's the reason, well, maybe it isn't. So I applaud you kind of holding back, sort of a wait and see attitude. Let's kind of take everything on a, an individual basis, I guess, is I think maybe your plan of action. And so I just want to encourage you to do that. I thank you for doing that. I also want to mention really quickly, like Elena said, I'm also really impressed with the City Council. I'm really impressed with Councilmember Lister and Councilmember Kavanaugh for how you handled last week with the one neighborhood district person, and that you met with her in person. And I'm so impressed by that you met with somebody woman to woman, person to person. And that just shows all of us that that you work, that you take your job seriously, and that you really work with the people of Simi Valley. And I'm really impressed with that, and I want to thank you.
Thank you.
I'd thank her for a comment, but it was just Councilmember Lister, but thank you.
Well, you impressed me also.
Kristen, do we have any speakers on Zoom?
Hi, it's David here, and yes, we have one person, Mr. Joe Puchowski.
Good evening again, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. I just wanted to address something that I thought, and I may have misheard this, so David Caceres, our city attorney, if I misheard you, please correct me. But it sounded like you mentioned that that several cities, including Torrance and Huntington Beach, were suing over SB 9, and that they're arguing making a charter city defense. Is that correct?
I'll just add that it's Redondo Beach, Carson, and Torrance.
Okay, all right, thank you. So in that, based on that alone, I'm sitting here wondering why we have not yet become a charter city. Yes, okay, I realize that charter cities are finding themselves having to fight the state more and more in court. But in the meantime, why don't we turn around and put this on the agenda and start the process to become a charter city, so that when instances like this come up, we're able to reap the benefits of the lawsuit that's been filed by those cities, among other things that have come up as far as charter cities go. So I would just encourage the council to put this on the agenda for a future council meeting here soon, to start the process of making Simi Valley a charter city. In the meantime, I want to urge you to do everything you can to stop this awful, evil Senate Bill 9 from ruining what our city looks like today. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
David,
Mr. Mayor, that concludes all the members of the public that wish to comment on this item on Zoom.
Okay. Okay, any comments from staff, Sean?
No additional comments.
No additional comments. Okay, the hearing's closed. And this time, comments from any council member.
I have a comment, Mayor, if I may.
Okay.
I just want to remind everyone, we do get, all municipalities in the state of California are authorized through the state of California. We have no authority as municipalities unless through the state. So we are beholden to follow those laws. With that in mind, we just heard, reports about, the mismatch between housing and employers here, and there have been municipalities that have not done their due diligence in providing the housing that is needed in this state. The urgency ordinance, as many of you have stated already, does meet the needs of the community. We do have to consider our business owners. They want to make sure that we have, homes for their employees to live in here in the city. So we have to consider all of that, our economic growth, our future, our stability, our youth, our future, all of those things in passing this ordinance. I think staff did a phenomenal job of putting this together. I'm glad that we're going to have the flexibility to adjust as the state adjusts and as there's refinement going on to make sure that it does meet the needs of all the communities in California. And we are wide and diverse in terms of municipalities in the state of California, of which there are hundreds. So I just want to keep that in mind, that there is a need for housing here. And we want to make sure that we meet those needs of everyone in this community. And I love the suggestions of, bike pathways and buses and, having commercial retail next to homes, again, increasing the walkability, reducing the traffic, making sure that we keep that in mind and we have a larger plan in mind when we have that. So once everyone's done making comments, Mayor, I would love to make a motion.
Okay. Elaine Litzer.
Thank you. I do appreciate that we've been proactive and that we have this, that we are doing these objective standards that basically try to maintain the standards of our community right now with as little disruption as possible. And so I commend you. For instance, as I read it more carefully this time, I noticed if someone is trying to make a lot split, that basically they cannot make them, you can't carve out a little corner. It has to be at least 40% of the original, so that both parcels are sizable and have good dimension. So I just think that there was a lot of intelligence that went into this, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that being said, and I appreciate, for instance, that they have to be if they're going to make that lot split, they have to reside there for 3 years as an owner. But I do have concerns, and this has nothing. I commend the efforts here. I do have concerns with SB 9. I do think that it can support developers, and if anything, can actually increase costs of housing, et cetera. There's nothing in this that requires an affordable housing component, and just because you cut it in half doesn't mean all of a sudden things become affordable. So I think that if that's the objective, that's not what it does. Anyway, so I appreciate what's being done here. I will, when it comes to 9B, I will be discussing our supporting the initiative for our neighborhood voice, because I think it's critical that we have the control of our communities and how they're developed, and that we maintain that. And so, but again, thank you for what you've done.
Hearing no more, let's make a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt urgency ordinance number 1335, declare the urgency thereof, waive full reading of the ordinance, and read the urgency ordinance by title only, and determine that the ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Second.
I have a motion second and call for the vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 5, public statements. This is the time for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and informational reports. All comments submitted by email have already been provided to the City Council. However, they will not be read by the clerk this evening. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted, followed by speakers who signed on to Zoom to speak for this public statements item 5 for a period of no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Mr. Mayor, unless you have any other comments, I can begin public statements.
Hey, first speaker.
John Lapper.
Some updates. Neighborhood Council. I attended the District 4 Neighborhood Council meeting last Tuesday, very informative, and Mayor Pro Tem Lister also attended. Pretty sure she can attest to my civil participation without any disruptions. Interesting that they are short 5 members. Also brought up was neighborhood complaints about fireworks and traffic concerns. Also pleased to have gotten this response from the Ventura District Attorney Office. We received your response regarding the Simi Valley City Council. If your inquiry relates to a violation of the Brown Act, our office will review. Your email will be forwarded to this chief deputy who handles the Brown Act violations. Perhaps someday you will be discussing John Lapper in a closed session instead of possibly at the gossip mill at the Junkyard Restaurant in the Mike Judge booth. I remind Mayor Mashburn of his Facebook post. Good leadership requires you to surround yourself with people of diverse perspectives who can disagree with you without fear of retaliation. Sadly, Mayor Mashburn, you have retaliated against 4 Democrats, Leanna Brand, John Lapper, and Rebecca Alberon, whose volunteerism you blocked. Plus, you blocked Councilwoman Ruth Luevanos from becoming Mayor Pro Tem 3 times. It is never too late to right a wrong, Mayor Mashburn. At the November 8th, 2021 Simi Valley City Council meeting, you stated, and I quote, "I will make the motion for each name in the order on the staff report. Someone from the council will then second the motion. We will do that on all 17 individuals. You denied only me that nomination motion and due process. Tonight, you can request that my name be put on the agenda for the neighborhood council for the next council meeting to consider my nomination for neighborhood council district number 4 based on qualifications and discussion of facts, not rumors, lies, and politics. You had no problem putting Rebecca Alberon on the city council agenda for removal. By the way, congratulations to Rebecca for being honored as outstanding East County activist, active in advocating for affordable housing for veterans, seniors, low-income people, unhoused people, and millennials. Rebecca has been a public servant with the County of Ventura for almost 8 years. And lastly, just a comment, it would be nice to allow the public participation of comments to be earlier under agenda item 2, instead of making us wait for over 2 hours for our 3 minutes of community concern, especially since council members have chosen not to respond to emails or public statements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fred Thomas?
I'll continue from my previous interruption. I apologize for that.
No problem.
I didn't read far enough down in the agenda to see there was a second one. Regarding the conversation about the DUA checkpoints, I think they're important, just like the, having arrests. Bottom line is, I'd like to think that everybody is responsible enough to know if they've had an evening to drink, intoxicated, that they're not going to drive themselves home. And unfortunately, the threat of arrest is one of the major reasons why they do think twice. And I think that, the fact that we announce out loud ahead of time that we're going to do it is just,
Hold on a minute. Something's wrong with your mic. No, it's not working.
That's fine. It's fine.
Wait a minute.
We're still picking it up, so that's okay.
Yeah.
We are?
Yeah. We got other mics picking it up. So
Okay. Try again, but there you go. There you go.
Anyways, I think it's an important part of, encouraging people to do the right thing, and unfortunately, on a regular basis, they don't. And I think that it's not a bad thing, that our police are there to make sure that they enforce that. On a positive note, not that I'm a member, but my late wife, Debbie Thomas, started an organization here in town, Swap in Simi Valley, and they have a really great event coming up on the 30th, the evening of the 30th at Studio Movie Grill on human trafficking. It's a free event. It includes an award-winning film, and there's still free seats available. I encourage people to go to it. It's a really great event. Just passing thought on the Santa Suzanne site cleanup. I know that it's not within, the role of the city to have a legal part of the resolution, but I just want to applaud you guys for continuing to be engaged in that conversation. I'm sure that those that are responsible, eventually, throw it over to the turned out to be the biggest blessing they've had. They've fallen in love with the city. They love the city. They appreciate it, and they're growing fast. And their plan is to continue to develop and grow their operation in the future. And that's the experience I have when I moved to the city. So I do love the city. And I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
David, do we have any speakers on Zoom?
At this time, any Zoom attendees are, this is the opportunity to speak on public statements. Okay, we have one hand raised. Rebecca, I'm going to be allowing you to speak and pulling you into the Zoom. If you can unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hi, yes. Good evening, council members. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make sure or be clear. I don't know when they were using the microphone, we actually couldn't hear, if we're on Zoom, we couldn't hear whatever the comments were. But I just wanted to make a general statement. I have 2 points. One was obviously because, Fred Thomas brought up some statement regarding DUI checkpoints. My name is Rebecca. I was on the Neighborhood Council District 3. I have continued to attend the meetings. I will continue to post the locations as soon as I know the location of the DUI checkpoints. As many people post the locations, at no point have I advocated for individuals to drive under the influence or of either alcohol or, medication or drugs or anything like that. I vehemently disagree with the action that the council took to remove me, beyond just a personal vendetta that Mayor Mashburn has because he doesn't like, disagreements or when people speak against, what his politics are. I need to make it very clear that there's statements that are just not factual that he made, which were at no point did I advocate for people driving under the influence. And this is not about, DUI checkpoints or anything like that, because if it was, then the city would put together at the request of the mayor, would be putting together some sort of plan to stop any incidents of driving under the influence, but that hasn't happened. So that was one thing I wanted to make very clear because it continues to be brought up and I will continue to speak on it every time anyone brings it up. The other thing I wanted to bring up was regarding I know they mentioned Port Hueneme and, kind of their economic, their status where they were at. And the mayor said, make sure to listen to this next part. So I wanted to bring up something that people have mentioned before, which is I would like us to have a conversation about allowing the sale of cannabis in this city. That was something that was briefly talked about a few years ago and we really haven't had a substantive conversation about that. So I do believe that that's something that the city can do. And there's many residents that are in favor of that. And that's really all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
And at this time, that concludes our comments from attendees on Zoom.
Okay, are there any comments from the council regarding the statements, public statements?
Yep.
Yes, council member, Judge.
City Manager Ryan Gabler. Didn't we put a referendum on the ballot a few years ago about cannabis shops in the city?
Yes, we did. I believe it went in 2018.
Okay.
And the residents voted slight margin, but if I recall, 52% against having cannabis shops in the city. And they also voted against having the businesses in the city as well.
Roger that. What would it cost for us to put that the referendum back on the ballot again.
Let me ask a question first.
Sure.
Was that an advisory? It wasn't actually it would not have made law, if I'm correct. It was an advisory to the council.
That's correct. It was an advisory vote. I would venture to guess somewhere between 50 and 75,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Luevanos.
Yes, Mayor, just quick comments. I just want to point out that according to case law, you have to publish the DUIs ahead of time. Otherwise, it's not constitutional. It's an illegal search and seizure. Again, it's not advocating for DUIs, but you have to publish it. Otherwise, it is illegal. That is the case law. It is established, and it's undeniable. We would not want to violate anyone's Fourth Amendment rights by not publishing the information that needs to be published, according to the courts. In terms of having vacancies in the neighborhood council, I'm glad to make the motion at 9B. If there are vacancies and Mr. Lapper is willing to serve and has demonstrated that he is qualified and able to do so, I see no reason why we should not consider him. Those are my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. My comments. If you go back, did I skip you?
I put you a while ago, but you'll get to me when you want me.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Just a few quick comments. Actually, I'm going to address the speakers, all of the public speakers, including the ones that I didn't get to address with the districting. I wanted to commend Wahid and those who put their time in to come up with this extra maps. I appreciate it, and there was the interesting discussion of going to 5 districts as opposed to 4. Just the thought that I understand the desire for good representation, although I do think that can be done with 4 or 5. But the problem with 5, of course, is then either you have the mayor has to be the 5th person representing one district and it's no longer at large, or else you then have an even number of people on this council, and that we'd be tying all over the place. So anyway, there are reasons why we have you have the number that we have and the way our system works. But appreciate those who put the time in and thought about it. I appreciated Leanna Brand's comments that she wants to be sure she gets the opportunity to vote when it's her time, and that's another rationale for keeping the districts as we have, so that those who didn't get a chance to vote last time will certainly get to vote this next time. I did appreciate Mr. Joe Piechowski's point that 88.56% of Simi Valley voters voted. What a tremendous tribute that is to our engagement of voters here in Simi Valley. With regards to a couple things, Mr. Fred Thomas, appreciated your comments. I just wanted to echo what he said as far as attending and visiting with the people of the new church in our area. It was the Revelation Church, who are located on Easy Street, and they've been here now a year, and they love Simi Valley. They have 1,500 attendees every Sunday morning or Thursday night when they meet. I just think it's very commendable that we have wonderful that addition to our community. And so those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like to remind you that our comments to statements on public are just that, just brief back to them. Okay, Councilmember Levinos, are you back up or did I not take you off the list?
No, I forgot to push my button.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Plenty good. I just have 2 short statements. One, thank you, John Lapper, for not calling me a liar this time. Every meeting you come and you call me a liar, so I appreciate you dropped that this time. The other thing is when we talk about the removal of Rebecca is, as I remember it, there was no accusation whatsoever of any illegal doing. It had to do with what no one mentions is providing information on how to avoid the particular site where the DUI checkpoint is. And in my case, when anybody puts on a video in a public forum with information about this city and uses the extreme foul language that was used loud and clear, guess what? You're not going to get my vote. So that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, and there are two resolutions for your consideration this evening. Consent item 3, resolution number 2022-03, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley confirming costs expended in the abatement of a public nuisance on vacant residential property within the city and authorization for the placement of a special assessment on the county tax roll to recover costs. And consent item 4, resolution number 2022-04, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley amending the fiscal year 2022-23 budget to incorporate a list of projects funded by Senate Bill 1, SB 1, for fiscal year 2022-23, Cycle 6, the Road Repair and Accountability Act.
Consent move. Any?
I'd like to discuss item 3, please.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to pull item 3 from the calendar for a quick discussion, please.
Okay, 3 and what?
And I'd like to pull item 4, Mayor, if I may.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a motion to approve items 1 and 2?
I'll
yes.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pass consent 1 and 2.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Questions on 4?
Wait, I thought you were going to do 3 first. You're gonna do 4
I can
first.
go with 3 if you like.
I usually go in order, so I'm a little thrown off, but that's okay. I have a question on this one. On page 2 of the staff report, it states that, so I had 2 questions. One is, I know you identified the streets based on the PCI values, that if they were less than 30, meaning they were in very poor condition, requiring an overlay or complete reconstruction, that's how those streets were identified. And so I appreciate that. I don't know when those were identified as that, because we have had a lot more rain, and we have, rerouting of traffic in certain areas, due to wildfires and everything else. So I wanted to know if that was, how recently were those determinations made in terms of being in very poor condition? Was that like a year ago, or 6 months ago, or last week? Oh, okay, so these are from 2020. I'm just repeating it so that the audience can hear it, because they can't hear you. Okay.
Yes, the values and the pavement management scores that are listed in the staff report are basically from our report from 2020.
Okay.
We update the report every 4 to 5 years.
Okay. Is it likely that, due to, we had a lot of rain, before, in the past couple of months, is it likely that would have shifted other streets to be more in poor conditions, or that it's likely they remain the same in the past 2 years?
It's hard to say, since these are all residential type streets and you don't get the detour traffic or any of the other heavy traffic, it's probably pretty close to the current conditions. But when we actually go out to design them, they reevaluate the street at that time. And if there's we have a little leeway, we can substitute another street that's in worse condition for one of the streets on our list. So we're
Okay.
flexible at the time we actually go to construction.
Beautiful. And my second question, thank you for answering that, is I'm concerned because it says the estimated total cost of the proposed projects may exceed the projected $2,403,496 in RMRA funding from SB 1, but then the report goes on to say on page 2, second paragraph, that the staff can identify such changes during the annual expenditure reporting to the commission. So if it exceeds that amount, are you going to come and ask money from the general budget, or is that going to come out of the $5 million that we allocated, to roads? I got a lot of questions with regard to that. So what does that mean? Like, you're going to look for cheaper, you're estimating, you're still not sure what the costs are?
Yeah, it is an estimate. And when we go out to bid and we get our bids, we'll evaluate. If we're under budget, obviously, that's good. If it's over our budget, we may cut out one or two streets in order to stay within the budget.
Okay. And just to clarify, because I read this and I'm like, well, what about, these main thoroughfares? We still have funding to address, repaving the main thoroughfares as well. Yes, like Cochrane and Alamo and
The major streets, the council transferred $5 million from the American Rescue Plan for major streets.
Okay.
And we're currently under design. Cochrane is our number one priority.
Thank you, Ron. I just wanted to bring that up because I know people are going to go, this is great, they're doing the residential streets, but what about the main streets and is there money for that? I just wanted that to be a matter of public knowledge so people know we are going to fix the main streets and the residential streets as well. Thank you so much, Ron.
Okay, we'll save that and vote with 3. Are you okay with it? Okay. Question on 3?
Yes, a question on 3, and maybe I'm not sure who would have questions about this actual assessment. Maybe because it is in my district and I drove over there and took a look at it, I wanted to understand exactly what's going on. $29,500 is what we're assessing, I believe, for and putting a lien on their property for our necessary cleanup, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And I guess I'm trying to understand the process because I took a look at it right now. It looks beautiful. But obviously, it's gated. There's a key. I want to know who has the, does the property owner then have key to the gating? I mean, what is the step this property is in now?
The property was cleared by the city. The city received a court order to allow us to abate the nuisances that were on the property. I will tell you, it is 1,000% better today than it was.
Oh, I can tell. I saw pictures before and after, and I literally saw it today, so
Yes.
I'm sure.
I believe we hold the key. Is that correct, Mara?
No, actually, I made sure that the key is held by the property owner. I think that was the safest legal
Okay.
thing to do.
The property owner still holds the key, so they still own the property. They still have the key, but we are leaning the property in order to recover our costs for the abatement.
Okay, and that's really critical to my question. So the property owner was aware, obviously, they've not corresponded to offer to pay, or I've not paid, but you've had correspondence enough that they own the key, they can have access to their property, they can continue to maintain, et cetera. Okay.
That's correct.
That was my concern. I just wanted to understand the process.
Actually, I went to court and was able to get the administrative abatement warrant. And one of the requirements is that the property owner would be well notified, and he was notified. And then I made sure that he was given back the key.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much. I just need to understand that.
Okay, do you want to challenge that further, or we can vote now?
I just need to understand it. Thank you.
Okay, okay. All right, so we need a motion for consent 3 and 4.
I move to approve consent items 3 and 4.
Second?
Okay, call for the vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 7A, second reading of ordinance number 1332, amending Chapter 3 of Title 6 of the Simi Valley Municipal Code relating to the regulation of solid waste storage collection, disposal, transfer, and resource recovery. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Ordinance number 1332, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley, amending Chapter 3 of Title 6 of the Simi Valley Municipal Code relating to the regulation of solid waste storage, collection, disposal, transfer, and resource recovery. And staff is available for questions.
I do have one question.
Okay. We're waiting for staff.
Okay, just my question, page 10 says fines are set forth by resolution. Do we actually list what those infraction resolution prices are in this resolution? Did I miss it? I just didn't see where that was stated. Can you give me a page or?
It was actually made part of our fine imposition resolution.
Okay, so it's not in this
It's not in
ordinance.
this ordinance.
It's not in this ordinance, but it's part of, okay.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to understand. Thank you. That was my question. Sorry.
Mayor, I have a couple of questions, if I may.
Okay.
On page 6 of the report, it states under section 1, sorry, I don't know what the subsection, because I have to go back, but on page 6, the middle of the page, it says the requirements are for commercial businesses who are Tier 1 or Tier 2 commercial edible food generators must arrange to recover the maximum amount of edible food that would otherwise be disposed. And I know that earlier we had, our Volunteer of the Year award, and he's, thanked, Vons and Grocery Outlet for, donating food to our seniors. So is that something that we're doing, that we're, collaborating or being the bridge, or, how much more staff time is that for, for us to be able to make sure that, the edible food is not disposed and that it's recovered? So I'd like to know, like, who's doing it? How is it coming about? Can you answer that question?
Yeah, so as of now, a lot of our edible food generators already have food recovery programs.
Can you
advanced
move a
set up.
little closer to the mic so the audience at home can hear you? Thank you.
Yeah, so as of now, the majority of our Tier 1 edible food generators already have these food recovery programs. They have that set up internally. We're going to go forward, and after watching that presentation with our Volunteer of the Year, I'd like to reach out to the Senior Center and see, how much more work we can do to increase this with our local businesses instead of having that food go outside of the city, and try to keep it inside the city as much as possible. So over the next 2 years, we're going to be working towards this.
One of the requests that I would have is, because I've worked with the, Samaritan Center and other, faith communities that, I couldn't find places that would take donations on the weekends. So the Samaritan Center was not open, the Senior Center was not open, a lot of the churches were not open. They're like, oh, we take donations on Thursdays from 10 a.m. to noon. And I'm like, I work, I can't, come and do that. So can we work towards, in a place where donations can be made on the weekends? And not just on the weekdays during working hours?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great suggestion. So.
Okay, and the other question I have is, it says, on section 3, it says, shall not intentionally spoil edible food that is capable of being recovered by a food recovery organization. So who's enforcing this? Is this our code enforcement people, or who's enforcing that?
So as of now, the plan is to utilize our environmental compliance inspectors that already inspect businesses, especially food generators. Code enforcement might potentially, but as of now, it's going to be our environmental compliance inspectors. So we're going to develop an inspection program. Again, the enforcement doesn't begin until 2024, so there's still work to be done to kind of get this up and running. But that is the plan as of now for the future.
Okay, and then my last question is, and I hope, I hope this is not the case. However, if we're still having PSPS events, if we're having any natural or, event that would cause us to lose electricity, which we have had a lot of in the city. And what happens is a lot of the grocery stores, if they lose electricity, and restaurants as well, if they lose electricity, then, their food spoils because, if the power doesn't come back within a certain amount of time, then, the eggs and the milk and all the perishables go bad. So is there something in this provision here with regard to that? Or I know we can't always predict when the power is going to come back on, right? I always have a cooler with ice the night before I get that PSPS warning, right? Just in case. But not all businesses can do that. And if all the businesses surrounding don't have power, they're not going to have ice either. So is there a provision for that, or is there something that we can give out to businesses so that they know, in case of that, in case there was a power outage, and it could be anything from, a transformer going down to a PSPS event to an earthquake to whatever. Is there a provision to deal with that here in terms of how they get rid of all that spoiled food?
There is not, because that would be a very large scale effort to recover all of that food. I know a lot of the larger grocery stores and supermarkets have backup generators to maintain their food freshness in their coolers. But I can't speak for all of them. But to answer your question, no, there isn't a provision to be able to recover all of that food in the event of a disaster like that.
Okay, and then last but not least, I know they have local education agencies in here. At my school where I teach, we have a farm on campus, an organic garden, and we started a community composting bin And I know that there are people in the community, families that want to, do a composting bin, but they're worried about critters. We have a lot of critters in Simi Valley, from raccoons to bunnies and everything in between. So is there a way that we can work with the local schools, our local public schools, to set up community composting bins from our elementary all the way to the high school level, so that people who want to compost would be able to do that?
Yes, I can reach out to the school district and float that idea by them. We're going to be doing that anyways. We have a requirement to provide them education regarding organics recycling, so we can kind of combo that and see how available they are to having community compost areas.
Okay, and then, this really is the last question. Is there any program, or is it possibility of a program, do any other municipalities in enacting these kinds of ordinances to comply with California state law, are they offering grants or, any kind of funding for people who do want to set up composting, in their backyards?
In terms of communities, I'm not aware of any that have grant funding available for that. There is a grant that was just made available here, and we have until February 1st to apply for it, which we are, and the package is ready to be submitted. So we're going to get funding from the state, and we have a whole lot of different ways of spending it. It's not real locked in. So one of the ideas I had is potentially using that for compost bins to hand out or subsidize for residents. So we're going to encourage at-home composting as much as possible as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you for all your work on this.
You want me to make a motion? No, I asked my first question at the very beginning.
Can I make a real quick comment?
Yes.
I would be terribly remiss if I didn't mention that code enforcement helped immensely in that administrative abatement warrant. So it was a collaborative effort. It wasn't just me, it was also code enforcement.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion, Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance number 1332.
Second.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 7B, second reading of ordinance number 1333, approving a change of zoning classification Z-S-748 and adopt the mitigated negative declaration to change the zoning designation of a 1.24 acre site for property located at east side of Ralston Avenue, 300 feet north of East Los Angeles Avenue. The reading of the ordinance is as follows. Ordinance number 1333, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley approving a change of zoning classification Z-S-748 and adopt the mitigated negative declaration to change the zoning designation of a 1.24 acre site for property located on the east side of Ralston Avenue, 300 feet north of East Los Angeles Avenue. And staff is available for questions.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 1333.
Second.
Oh,
Okay, we have a motion and second. Call for the vote.
The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 9A, City Council member reports.
Okay, we'll start with Council Member Luevanos.
thank you, Mayor. On Saturday, January 15th, I attended the American Association of University Women Luncheon. It included the AAUW chapters of Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, and Camarillo. Of course, I sat with the Simi Valley chapter. Assemblymember Jackie Irwin and Port Commissioner Selena Zacarias were also in attendance. And it was a wonderful event talking about how women, young ladies, can get into politics. What is the road to politics? How do you get into it? How do you get elected? How do you run for office? How do you follow that path? So it was wonderful to be next to two such amazing women in our county. And I just wanted to bring up, for those of you that are in middle school, if you're in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, you can apply for Tech Trek if you are interested in STEM fields, that's science, technology, engineering, or math. They do have, AAUW does offer a summer program. You can go to the University of California, Santa Barbara, and they pay for everything. And they, I believe, they usually have funding to send at least 4 middle school girls who are interested in STEM fields to go to UC Santa Barbara for a week, and it's a STEM camp. It's amazing. So I encourage you to reach out to our Simi Valley chapter of AAUW. They also have a speech contest that's for high schoolers where they are offering scholarships. So those of you that are, those of you on youth council or any of our girls that are interested in that speech contest and getting a scholarship, I highly encourage you to apply for that. And our AAUW chapters throughout Ventura County do some amazing work. So I want to encourage those of you that are looking for funding for college, which is really expensive, to apply for that. For those of you that are considering STEM fields in middle school, consider applying for Tech Trek. On Monday, January 17th, I attended the Ventura County Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. It was via Zoom because of the surge in COVID. We want to make sure that everyone was kept safe. They had some amazing speakers from the NAACP, from ACLU, Black leaders from Oxnard and Ventura, and Kappa Pi Theta. I'm sorry, I'm going to kill the sorority name. That were amazingly inspirational speakers and reminding us of what is the purpose of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it is to make sure that we, fight for the same things that he fought for, including equality, voting rights, helping the poor, and making sure that we, fully fund our education, and fight for the disenfranchised. And so it was about a 3-hour Zoom with amazing speakers that were inspirational. And again, it was beautiful to get to participate on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tuesday, January 11th, I toured the waste management recycling facility out in Silmar, Sun Valley, and it was a very interesting tour. We got to see where all our recycling waste goes. Just hazard to guess. They don't like getting plastic bags and recycling cans. And I'm talking about those one-use bags that some people still give out at restaurants and stuff. So they like you to put that in the regular trash because they gem up the recycling machines. That's my PSA from them. On Wednesday, January 12th, I, as a member of the Simi Valley Police Police Foundation, attended the police chief's luncheon, and we had a special guest, Mr. Danny Trejo, great character actor who is now on one of my favorite shows, The Book of Fett. So glad that he was there. It was a great lunch. Got to hear from Chief. I was very impressed with our good news about our crime stats. Thursday, January 13th, I was in the Cal Cities meet and greet with the committees. This is my 9th year on the Public Safety Committee, representing the city of Simi Valley on the California League of Cities. And so we're planning to do some good things this year. Hopefully there won't be any crazy bills coming out of Sacramento, but they are in session. On Friday, January 14th, I was privileged and honored to attend the promotion of 4 police officers to the rank of sergeant. Jason Wilkerson, Rick Morton, Danny Freites, and Steve Collette. So big round of applause to those guys for making sergeant, and I hope they do well by their troops. On Saturday, January 15th, myself and the mayor attended the Elk Lodge meeting for Edison's microgrid battery storage plan. If that goes through and the Elks approve it, that can be a game changer for those neighborhoods down there. I think it covers 250 plus homes, basically putting a solar generator in there with batteries to back it up in case there are more PSP events. Those homes down there, which are always the ones that get shut off first, hopefully will not be anymore. So after that, all last week, I attended the SHOT Show in Las Vegas, and I got to see all the newest and greatest in military and police hardware, and that's my report.
All right. Councilmember Dee Dee Kavanaugh.
Thank you. And the look I gave the city manager was because I didn't receive an invitation to the promotion for the 4 new sergeants, and I was asking the city manager, why not? So I want to congratulate new Sergeants Collette, Wilkinson, Morton, and Freites on their promotions to sergeant. So, Chief, will we get invited next time? Okay, thank you. I know 3 of them personally, so I would have really liked to have been there. I didn't have a whole lot going on the last 2 weeks. I only had 2 things. Number one, I just wanted to mention, I As you all know, Betty White, everyone's favorite actress, passed away before her 100th birthday. But somebody started that challenge to donate to a pet rescue or animal shelter of your choice on her birthday, which was January 17th. I was watching Channel 4 News, and guess who came on? Ventura County Animal Shelter. Randy did a great job on promoting the shelter. They actually spent probably a minute at the shelter, showing the dogs, showing the yard and such. Our Ventura County Animal Shelter Foundation had a goal of $10,000. They got over $51,000. So that was just our shelter. And I thought I heard today, a total of over 13 million was collected throughout all the whoever did the reporting. But I just wanted to thank everybody who donated. I know Ventura County Animal Shelter is doing a great job. Randy does. If you watch their Facebook page, he's constantly recognizing different animals and bringing them out and showing them, talking about their personalities. So I'm going to get a new cat. I just haven't told them yet. So I'm on my way there one of these days. So I miss having a cat. The other thing I attended, I mentioned earlier, was our 25th anniversary for the EDC, the Economic Development Collaborative. So we had our annual board meeting. Normally it's in person. We had to do it in Zoom. It's where we finalize the nominations of the new officers and where we say goodbye to our departing chair and then welcome the new one. So I did want to just give a special thanks to Nan Drake from E.J. Harrison. She stepped off the executive board, and she's been a past president and has done a great job. She does a lot of the recycling stuff with E.J. Harrison, so she's a very interesting lady. And she's staying on the board. She just stepped off the executive board. And I just want to say thank you to Supervisor Kelly Long for her past year of filling in as the chair. She did a great job walking us through the the pandemic. The EDC really had its work cut out for them. They have a great staff there. Bruce Stanley's the head. And I'm very proud to be on their board. And we're going to get them up here and get some more help for our businesses. So look forward to that. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Litster.
Thank you, Mayor. January 10th, I know that was 2 weeks ago, but I just wanted to attend the Council on Aging meeting. We recognize those that were going off the board tonight, and I just wanted to say another voice of appreciation for Janet Platt, who served as the Council on Aging chair, and that was her last meeting. Beautiful report that she gave us about what they've done this past year, and just was exceptional. She'll be missed, but I wanted to mention that, as well as the recognition that Tom Poiser received, just well-deserved. On Wednesday, January 12th, I too attended the police chief luncheon and appreciated the remarks that shows the progress and good things that are being done by our force here in Simi Valley. On Thursday, January 13th, I want to thank Councilmember Luevanos, who encouraged me, offered me the position to attend VCOG. We had our meeting on that day, and Henry Dubroff, who's the editor of Pacific Coast Business Times, was the presenter. Had some very interesting statistics about what's going on in Ventura County. Of course, we had some of that this evening as well. But one of the things that I thought was interesting is that he underscored is that full economic recovery is underway here in Ventura County. That in our pre-pandemic to 2020 unemployment figure was at 4.6%. Our November unemployment rate is at 4.4%. So we have returned to our pre-pandemic employment levels. He talked about the snow globe economy, which I thought was very interesting, where he spoke about how this pandemic has meant that people are looking for that traditional Goldilocks home, are looking that it's changing a little bit of our housing needs because of this pandemic. But anyway, very interesting presentation. And also at that meeting, they elected a new chair-elect, Randy Haney of Ojai, who will step into the position of chair within a year, but he was vice chair-elect. January 14th, attended the funeral of Jeffrey Nadyball. We recognized him last city council, and his parents and family were most appreciative of that. And so I wanted to thank my colleagues for doing that. On Monday, January 17th, I too attended Ventura County's 36th annual Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial celebration. It really was exceptional, as Councilmember Levino stated. I appreciated very much the theme that they had this year, which was one people, one nation, one dream. Let's keep moving forward. I thought that was very inspiring. On Tuesday, January 18th, I appreciated attending the Youth Council meeting with Mayor, and I know that they welcome his attendance there. Good things happening there. I also attended Neighborhood Council number 4 and appreciated that their chair, Mr. Joe Piechowski, invited me specifically to come as I'm the new liaison and welcomed my presence there. Wanda Moyer gave a wonderful presentation about water and conservation here in our city and what we need to be doing. And also Samantha Argabright did a lovely presentation as well with the Civic Alliance, which was, we received similar presentation this evening, but she did an exceptional job. One other thing I just wanted to comment, I don't normally mention it, but I'm on the Simi Ed Foundation board. January 21st, they did have a board meeting. I just mentioned it because unlike the animal rights that you just mentioned, the animal raising, the Simi Ed Foundation board is looking for, or encouraging people to become champions of education as they raise funds for enhancement grants for the classrooms and scholarships for graduating seniors. So if you haven't been tapped out donating elsewhere, please check it out at svef.org. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. On January 11th, I attended the EDC meeting with the chamber, and I think a lot of the information was discussed at that meeting that was thoroughly presented tonight by not only David Marone, but also our own Linda Swan. I attended the police luncheon, and I want to give a special shout out to Karen Smith because I can't say I grabbed her, that's not politically correct, but I asked her for some assistance. She went with me. I named her Vanna White, and we went around and raised the foundation some money by selling the coins. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, I sold 2 or 3. She sold 10 or 11. I don't know why that happened. On January 13th, along with Samantha Augerbright, we met with a Vanessa Carr from the governor's office and had an opportunity to speak with them regarding the needs of Simi Valley, the wants of Simi Valley, the direction Simi Valley feels the state is going, both good and that we don't like. It was a very open discussion. The governor has set up, I think it was maybe 5 locations throughout the state that will do this, and our contact is just over in San Fernando Valley, and she offered up that we could call there anytime and discuss any of the issues that come down to our city from the state. Very, very nice, very open meeting, and a very impressive lady that was the one we talked to. I too, along with Councilmember Judge, attended the Elk Lodge and Edison discussion group, I'll call it. And I guess to put it in a nutshell, we're just encouraging, as a city, the Elks Lodge folks and the Edison folks to continue negotiations, because if they can come to an agreement on cost of and price of leasing the land, they will be putting in a microgrid, I think that's what they call it, right on some Elks property, which will serve an area of our city where we're hit the hardest during PSPS events. And so there was a long discussion. There has been no decision made, and like I say, our role was not to tell them to charge more, charge less, or anything like that. It was just to encourage them and let them know the effect that it would have on our community, the positive effect that it would have on our community if they make this agreement and get it into operation. I attended the youth council meeting, first one for me, and wow, that's kind of a nice experience to watch these young adults taking control of a meeting and doing such a very good job of it. And it's also maybe a little bit trying to sit there and go, you know what, don't say anything. There's no reason to say anything. This is their meeting, and we're there for guidance or direction or answering questions if they want. But I think there's going to be very little of that because it's such a strong, mature group. So I'm looking forward to more meetings with them. I had the ADA Paratransit Advisory Committee meeting on Thursday, January 20. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum. We went ahead and held the meeting, but it was quite limited because we could not take any votes. And that is it for me. So we'll move on to 9B, which is future agenda items. And I would like to start off by bringing up, I heard the mention of Charter City, and I don't think we need to agendize it necessarily, but I would like to get the view of the city manager and the city attorney on if this is something we should agendize, or is it something that we'd be better served if you just, I hate asking you folks to do reports, but to give us some kind of feedback on the value of going to a charter city or not going to it.
We'd be happy to provide that. There was an analysis done just a few years ago where we did look at that, and we're more than happy to pull that back up and update it and send it on to the city council. We'll put it, we'll send it to you folks.
Okay, so we don't need a agendize or.
Well, if you want, I can respond to some of the legal.
If you can legally respond to the legal part of it,
Well,
great.
as it relates to SB 9 in the specific cities of Redondo Beach, Torrance, and Carson, as I understand it, they're making legal arguments that SB 9 is not narrowly tailored enough to deal with the affordable housing problem. That is a creative legal argument, in my opinion. The other argument that those cities are making is that the state is interfering and affecting with their municipal powers. I can tell you that other charter cities have made similar legal arguments in the past, but as Councilmember Luevanos mentioned tonight, and Councilmember Judge has previously stated, SB 9, in my opinion, does express some sort of some public policy. So it's going to be difficult for those charter law cities to overcome that argument. But on the other hand, once the matters get before the courts, anything can happen. But I think it's also telling that there's only a small number of cities that are joining this type of challenge.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mayor, I have 3 requests for new agenda items.
Yes.
The first is with regard to comments that were made at a planning commission meeting and just in the process of the pass of our new RENA requirements. I would like a request to discuss the possibility of an inclusionary ordinance in order to make sure that we meet our RENA requirements. And what I would like most to do is to avoid the state from coming in and taking over our authority. And if we pass an inclusionary ordinance, I think that would help. So that help us meet our RENA requirements, make sure we have housing. So that's a discussion I would like to have on a future agenda.
Okay, comment? Second?
No one wants to have a discussion on an inclusionary ordinance?
I'm sorry, are you saying it need, what? I mean,
Have a discussion about passing an inclusionary ordinance in our city.
Inclusionary ordinance would force developers to build low-income housing in our city when they put in for development.
so it would, yeah.
Or contribute to Moore Park has 1,000, I mean, all the adjacent cities have inclusionary ordinances, which is how they're able to meet their RENA requirements. You know, we still have an affordable housing subcommittee for a reason. So having a discussion doesn't mean we're going to pass it, but at least we could have the discussion. No second? Okay. Mayor, my second request is to have a discussion on I'm not sure what the process is, but Councilman Judge mentioned it, a possibility of an ordinance to legalize sales of cannabis. I know it narrowly lost on the referendum vote that we had for advisement, but we did, the part of the referendum that did pass was the desire to tax it, ironically enough. So I would like us to have the discussion about that, about, what the process is to have that.
Okay, second on that, to have agendize the future of cannabis in our city? Was that good enough?
Yes.
It's not that I don't want to second that, but what I want to do is I'd like us, if there is, I mean, I've heard one person mention it in the last 6 months. So if there is an interest, I think we should go back and respect our residents by putting that at referendum on the ballot again and seeing where it falls after that, because there were three things on the ballot. One, yes, we did pass a tax for marijuana. Second one was no on dispensaries and no on marijuana businesses. So even though they didn't pass by much, they still passed. So I would say before we do anything but discussing it, we discuss putting another referendum on the ballot.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think is a matter of discussion, or at least receive a report from the staff, because there's so much that went down. We had those consultants in. It was they gave us information, and then we had the ballot information. And so all I'm saying is I'd rather than just put it on and say we're going to discuss it and not have any time in the meantime, is get a report from staff, find out where we are, and then look at each other and say, is this something that we want to discuss putting on the ballot, or do we want to do another advisory vote to see where we stand within the city? Because I think it is a topic in the city.
I just saw that, 19% of our sales were online sales, and I know a chunk of that is cannabis sales. And why should we be missing out, right, on that tax revenue? So I'm fine with the referendum. So I don't know if I need to second Councilman Judge's discussion or motion, but yes, I'm fine with that.
Cool.
And I have one more request, Mayor,
Yes.
for a 9B item. I would like to nominate John Lapper to serve or be considered to serve in the vacancy on Neighborhood Council number 4, as he has gone through the process already. And there are vacancies, so there is a need for that leadership. And he has demonstrated a desire to continue to serve in that capacity.
Okay, we'll be looking for a second to put John, and that would have to go as an agenda item, and then we'd have to make it happen at the next meeting where he's actually nominated, and we could vote on him at that time. Am I correct, if he gets the nomination?
And before we get ahead of ourselves, we need a second.
I was just going to say I'd like to look to see when our next appointment cycle begins, to see if that.
And the vacancies he's referring to, as Emily had explained at the neighborhood council meeting, there are vacancies on that neighborhood council because they're trying to right-size it.
We're trying to
when
reorganize
the
them,
districts
right.
changed, there was a need to hold off on nominating everyone at the same time.
Correct, and I believe the next recruitment takes place later on this late spring, if I remember correctly. We can shoot an email to you, give you the status of when the next recruitment is, and you are correct. Listeners, in order to right-size it, you need to keep some vacancies available so you can make the appointments so they continue to be staggered. So if you like, we can provide an update on the recruitment process. Or you can, whatever the council wants.
Well,
I'm fine on an update to see where we're at.
you want to second that?
No, I said I'm fine on an update to the
update.
status as to where we're at.
Yeah, I have no desire to nominate him.
So none of you will second my nomination of John Lapper?
I would like to have it done in the normal sense and see what we have there if we're going to do it.
Does that mean he has to go through the process all over again? Okay.
I think so.
So Mayor, I do have a 9B request as well.
Okay, Elaine?
Thank you. Just as this evening we've been discussing SB 9 and SB 10 and how it is certainly taking away our local authority. I mentioned this last time, but I'd like to mention once again that I would like the city to be a little more proactive and have a discussion about joining the Our Neighborhood Voice initiative. They're trying to qualify the 1 million signatures by the 1st of April, and so I would like us to consider at least lending a voice as the city council that we are in favor of this initiative, or at least have a discussion about on the dais about its potential value to us and our local planning authority.
Second.
Hey, there's, you got a second there, so. Okay, so we'll put it on the next agenda. Or a coming agenda, right? Not necessarily the next. We're already ahead. Okay, okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. Okay, tonight, once again, we have to adjourn in memory of someone. So I'm going to start off, and I'll have to explain to you who this one individual is. We're going to adjourn in memory of a gentleman named Preston Petty. And Preston Petty was a character that frequents our city on a very consistent weekly basis. And he's quite a character and a very big celebrity in the world of motorcycles. And there's a meeting here every Monday night at a restaurant down on Cuner, and he's always there. And he just recently passed away, and so we won't be seeing Mr. Petty around anymore. And then also, unfortunately, you know, I was looking at, we have Officer Tyler Lehan from Elk Grove Police Department. But along with that, you know, that's a California police officer who lost his life in the line of duty. But our country's been hit quite severely. I'm also aware of an officer that was shot and killed in New York City just a couple nights ago. And also there was a Texas, I think he worked for Border Patrol, I'm not sure, an officer, and he died in a vehicle accident while pursuing people that needed to be pursued. And so our country is just taking a hit everywhere, and we're losing officers everywhere. And I don't know what the answer is, but I would sure like to see a major, major reduction in the number of officers that lose their life protecting us. And so with that, we'll close and adjourn in their memory.